Imagine for a moment that you are walking on a wire, stretched taut over a vast, silent canyon. Each step is a careful calculation, a test of perfect balance. Your arms are outstretched, your muscles are tense, your entire being is focused on a single goal, not falling. You are acutely aware of the texture of the wire beneath your feet, the distant ground below, and the gentle, unpredictable whisper of the wind. This is the state in which many of us live our lives, not over a literal canyon, but over the abyss of uncertainty. We are all tightrope walkers in our own minds, meticulously planning each step, trying to control our career, our finances, our relationships, our health, our future, believing that with enough effort, with enough control, we can prevent the inevitable sway of the rope. We can command the wind to be still, and yet, the wind always blows. The rope always trembles. This constant, exhausting effort to maintain control in a world that is fundamentally uncontrollable is the source of a deep and quiet suffering in modern life. It manifests as a low-grade hum of anxiety that follows us throughout the day, a sense of being perpetually braced for an impact that may or may not come. It is the reason we feel so tired, not just from our work, but from the immense, unseen labor of resisting reality. This struggle, this silent war against the way things are, doesn't end when we turn off the lights. It follows us into our beds, replaying the day's battles, planning tomorrow's campaigns, refusing to let the mind surrender to the peace of sleep. But what if the path to peace isn't about winning this war? What if the secret is not to grip the balancing pole tighter, but to learn how to let it go? What if true stability is found not in resisting the sway, but in moving with it gracefully? There is an ancient path, a way of understanding that offers not a set of beliefs, but a set of tools for the mind. It is a path that gently invites us to examine this illusion of control, to see it for what it is, and to find a profound freedom in its release. It is the path of learning to stop fighting the river of life, and instead to find rest and safety by floating in its current. This is an invitation to lay down your arms, to quiet the inner warrior, and to learn how to sleep deeply and peacefully in the gentle flow of life itself. Let us begin by exploring a fundamental human impulse, a deep and ancient craving that shapes our lives in ways we rarely notice. We are creatures who seek patterns, who build maps, who yearn for the solid ground of certainty in a world of shifting sands. This desire is not a weakness, nor is it a modern invention. It is a core piece of our evolutionary inheritance, a survival strategy written into our very DNA. To understand our struggle with control, we must first travel back in time, to the vast open savannas where our ancestors walked. For them, survival depended entirely on the ability to predict and control. The one who could predict the path of a predator, the one who knew where to find water in a drought, the one who could control the creation of a fire against the cold, was the one who lived to see another sunrise. The brain became a magnificent prediction machine, constantly scanning the environment, sorting information into two simple categories: safe or unsafe, opportunity or threat. A rustle in the grass was not just a sound, it was a potential danger that needed to be controlled, either by fighting or by fleeing. The ability to exert influence over the immediate environment was the very definition of staying alive. This ancient operating system, this primal software designed for physical survival, is still running within us today. We no longer live on the savannah, but our brains have not entirely caught up with this fact. The landscape has changed, but the internal mechanism remains the same. The predator is no longer a lion in the grass. It is a negative performance review, a stock market downturn, an unexpected bill, or the fear of social rejection. The life-sustaining fruit is no longer found on a tree. It is a promotion at work, a stable relationship, or the accumulation of wealth that promises security. The fundamental drive is identical: to predict the future and control it, to maximize pleasure and safety, and to minimize pain and uncertainty. So when you feel that knot of anxiety in your stomach as you think about the future, when you find yourself endlessly planning and strategizing, know that you are not broken. You are simply running a very old, very powerful program. It is a program that once served us perfectly, but in the complex, interconnected world of today, it has begun to produce unintended and painful side effects. Our modern society has taken this ancient biological impulse and amplified it 1,000 times over. We live in what could be called a culture of control. We are bombarded with the message that not only is it possible to control every facet of our existence, but that it is our duty to do so. We are told to optimize our mornings, to hack our productivity, to engineer our diets, to curate our social media profiles into gleaming showcases of success and happiness. The 5-year plan is not just a suggestion, it is a requirement. The career ladder is not a metaphor. It is a rigid structure we are expected to climb without misstep. The world of self-help and productivity promises us that if we just find the right system, the right app, the right morning routine, we can finally eliminate the chaos of life and achieve a state of perpetual, manageable order. This creates an immense and subtle pressure. The underlying message is that if you are feeling anxious, if you are struggling, if your life is not a perfect picture of success, it is a personal failure. It means you haven't planned well enough. You haven't tried hard enough. You haven't exerted enough control. We look at the seemingly perfect lives of others online, forgetting that we are comparing our messy, unpredictable reality to their carefully edited highlight reel. We are trying to force our own life to conform to an impossible ideal of perfect, uninterrupted control. And what happens when we succeed, even for a moment? What happens when our meticulous plan works out, when our prediction comes true? There is a fleeting sense of relief, a rush of satisfaction. The anxiety recedes, and we feel safe. This feeling is powerful, and it is deeply addictive. We tell ourselves, "See, control works. I just need to do more of it." But this relief is like drinking salt water to quench a thirst. The satisfaction is temporary, and it reinforces the very behavior that causes the underlying problem. The moment one area of life is seemingly under control, the mind, our faithful prediction machine, immediately begins scanning the horizon for the next potential threat, the next variable that needs to be managed. We secure the job, and then we worry about keeping it. We find a relationship, and then we worry about losing it. We achieve a level of financial security, and then we worry about the economy. The peace never lasts, because the nature of life itself is change. This creates a vicious cycle. The fear of uncertainty drives us to seek control. The temporary relief we get from controlling something reinforces our belief in control as the ultimate solution. And when a new uncertainty inevitably arises, our anxiety returns, often with greater intensity, because we have become even more convinced that a life without total control is a life on the verge of collapse. We are building our house on ground that we know is constantly shifting, and we are surprised and distressed every time we feel a tremor. There is an old story of a great king who was consumed by a single fear, the fear of chaos. He looked upon the world outside his kingdom and saw only war, famine, and unpredictability. He vowed that his own kingdom would be an island of perfect order and safety. He commanded the finest architects and the strongest laborers to build a wall around his entire kingdom. For decades, all the resources of the nation were poured into this single, monumental project. The wall was a masterpiece of control. It was impossibly high, smooth, and thick, with fortified towers and gates of iron and bronze. No army could breach it. No spy could scale it. As the final stone was laid, the king felt a sense of profound triumph. He had conquered uncertainty. He had built a fortress against the randomness of the world. His people were safe, and he, their ruler, was in complete control. One evening, as he was celebrating his achievement, he called for a polished shield to admire his reflection. But the face that looked back at him was not the strong, commanding face of his youth. It was the face of a tired, old man, with deep lines etched by worry and time. In that same moment, he felt a sharp pain in his chest, and his breath became shallow. A terrifying realization dawned upon him. He had spent his entire life, his entire fortune, building a wall to keep enemies out, yet the most fearsome and relentless invaders had been inside the walls with him all along. They were sickness, old age, and death. They were not external forces he could fight, but were woven into the very fabric of his being. His great wall, the ultimate symbol of his power and control, was utterly useless against the fundamental, unchangeable nature of life. We are all, in our own way, that king. Our careers, our achievements, our routines, our possessions, these are the walls we build. We construct them with immense effort, believing they will make us safe, believing they will protect us from the chaos of the world. We find a temporary comfort inside these fortresses of our own making. But this is a golden cage. It may be beautiful and feel secure, but it is a cage nonetheless, and it cannot protect us from the truth of our own nature. We have now seen why we build this fortress of control, but we must also have the courage to ask, what is the true cost of living inside these walls? What is the price we pay every single day for this illusion of safety? We have seen the fortress of control we build around ourselves, the high walls and iron gates designed to keep out the chaos of the world. It is a natural, deeply human response to the fear of uncertainty. But every fortress has a cost, and it is not measured in stone or in gold. There is a hidden tax we pay for the illusion of safety, a toll extracted from us with every passing moment that we spend at war with reality. The price of our resistance is our own peace of mind, and the currency we pay with is our own life energy. To understand this cost, we must become familiar with a word from the ancient Pali language. The word is dukkha. Often, this word is translated into English simply as suffering, and while it certainly includes the great and obvious sorrows of life, like grief, sickness, and pain, its true meaning is far more subtle and far more pervasive. To limit dukkha to just these big, dramatic events is to miss its profound insight into our daily experience. Perhaps a better translation is unsatisfactoriness, or even more descriptively, friction. Imagine a wheel on a cart that is just slightly misaligned. The cart still moves forward. It still carries its load. But with every rotation there is a subtle bump, a grating resistance, an inefficiency that makes the journey more difficult and wears down both the wheel and the road. This is dukkha. It is the background hum of discontent, the feeling that things are not quite right. It is the texture of a life lived in opposition to its own flow. It is the low-grade tension in your shoulders as you sit in traffic, the quiet frustration of a plan gone awry, the subtle clenching in your gut when you hear unwelcome news. It is the experience of wearing shoes that are just one size too small. You can still walk, you can still get where you need to go, but you are never truly comfortable. Every step is a small reminder of the discord between your foot and the shoe. This subtle, persistent friction is the true cost of our resistance. This friction is not generated by the world itself. It is not an inherent quality of traffic, or criticism, or fatigue. It is generated at the precise point of collision between two opposing forces, the collision between our rigid desires and the fluid nature of reality. On one side, we have our mind, which constantly generates a blueprint of how things should be. The meeting should end on time. The person I love should behave in a certain way. I should feel happy and motivated today. This blueprint is built from our hopes, our fears, and our deep-seated need for control. On the other side, we have reality, which simply is. The meeting runs late. The person we love acts according to their own nature and conditions. We wake up feeling tired and uninspired. In the space between should be and is, friction arises. The suffering is not the traffic jam itself, but our internal argument with it. The thought, this shouldn't be happening. It's ruining my day. The pain is not the criticism, but our resistance to it. The thought, they shouldn't say that. They don't understand. The struggle is not the fatigue, but our war against it. The thought, I cannot afford to be tired right now. I have too much to do. In every case, the external event is neutral. It is just a condition. Our resistance to that condition is what turns it into a source of suffering. When we live in a state of constant resistance, these small moments of friction accumulate. They build up in our minds and bodies as chronic stress, anxiety, anger, and deep, unshakable exhaustion. We often see these states as the problem themselves. We say, I have an anxiety problem, or I have anger issues. But from this perspective, these are not the diseases. They are the symptoms. They are the fever that tells us the body is fighting an infection. The infection, in this case, is our deep-seated habit of resisting life. Think of the sheer amount of energy it takes. Your mind is effectively working a second, hidden job, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The job title is General Manager of the Universe. Its duties include preventing things you don't like from happening, forcing things you do like to happen, and keeping everything you value in a permanent, unchanging state. This is an impossible job. And the salary is misery. The exhaustion we feel at the end of the day is often not just from our official work, but from the immense, draining labor of this internal struggle. And insomnia, that tormenting state of wakefulness in the dark, is simply the mind's refusal to clock out. It lies in bed, still at its post, reviewing reports of the day's failures in control, and drafting new, more ambitious strategies for tomorrow. It cannot rest because it has not yet accepted that the war is unwinnable. Imagine a wide and powerful river. This river represents the flow of life. It has its own speed, its own currents, its own unpredictable eddies and depths. Its destination is the great ocean. Now, imagine a man standing on the bank. He is strong, proud, and fiercely determined. He decides he wants to reach a destination directly upstream. He ignores the direction of the current and plunges into the water, beginning to fight his way forward. Every muscle in his body strains against the immense, indifferent power of the water. He kicks and pulls with all his might, his face a mask of heroic effort. For every foot of progress he makes, the river pushes him back too. He sees other people in the river, some floating on their backs, some gently paddling with the current, and he scoffs at their weakness. He believes his struggle is a sign of his strength, his virtue, but he is making no real progress. and he is becoming utterly exhausted, swallowing water, his heart pounding in his chest. Now, imagine another person, a wise woman. She also wants to reach a point on the far bank. She studies the river for a moment, observing its flow. She enters the water, not with a battle cry, but with a sense of respect. She doesn't swim directly against the main current. Instead, she angles her body, using the river's own energy, letting a cross current carry her gracefully toward her destination. She is not passive, she is skillfully engaged. She uses her intelligence and her energy to work with the river, not against it. She arrives at her destination, not with the burning exhaustion of a defeated warrior, but with the calm vitality of one who understands the nature of things. We are all in this river. For too long, we have been taught to be the strong man, to believe that our value lies in our struggle against the current. We have glorified the resistance, wearing our stress and exhaustion as badges of honor. But the cost is too high. The price of this constant, unwinnable fight is our health, our relationships, our creativity, and our ability to find simple joy. The suffering, the friction, the dukkha does not come from the river itself. It comes from our decision to swim against it. If this constant resistance, this swimming against the current, is the source of our exhaustion and unease, then we must ask a deeper question. What is the engine that powers this struggle? What is the fuel that feeds our relentless need to fight reality? We have seen that our suffering, our deep and constant friction with life, is not caused by the river of reality itself, but by our desperate and exhausting struggle to swim against its current. We have recognized the cost of this resistance in our own bodies and minds. This leads us to a more fundamental question. If the struggle is so costly, why do we persist? What is the fuel for this fight? What is the relentless engine within us that drives this battle we can never truly win? The answer lies in a single, powerful word from the ancient teachings. The word is tanha. This word, tanha, is often translated as craving or desire, but a more evocative and accurate meaning is thirst. Think of the raw, primal urgency of a true physical thirst. It is not a gentle preference. It is a demanding, all-consuming force that hijacks your attention and compels you to act. This is the nature of tanha. It is the deep, nagging, and relentless thirst of the mind for things to be different than they are. It is the invisible force that compels us to resist reality. It is the hand that clenches into a fist, the muscle that tenses to fight the current. Our elaborate strategies of control, our meticulous plans, and endless worries are simply the actions we take to try and satisfy this profound and ever-present thirst. It is the true root of our struggle. To understand how to let go of control, we must first understand the nature of the thirst that drives it. And this thirst, the Buddha taught, manifests in three distinct, though interconnected, forms. The first and most obvious form is the thirst for pleasant sensations, or kamatanha. This is the thirst for everything that gratifies our senses. It is the craving for a delicious taste on the tongue, the desire for a beautiful sight to please the eyes, the longing for a soothing sound, a pleasant touch, or an engaging thought. It is the thirst for praise, for comfort, for entertainment, for excitement. Our modern world is a grand temple built in honor of this thirst. Advertising exists to create it. Consumerism exists to temporarily satisfy it. Our entire strategy of controlling life is often just an elaborate project to ensure a steady and reliable supply of these pleasant experiences. We work hard to afford the vacation that promises relaxation. We seek the relationship that promises affection and validation. We buy the gadget that promises convenience and entertainment. We are like honeybees, constantly flitting from one flower to the next, seeking the next drop of sweet nectar, driven by a deep belief that if we can just arrange enough pleasant experiences, we will finally be happy. The second form of thirst is more subtle, but even more powerful. It is the thirst for existence, or for becoming, known as bhava tanha. This is not just the desire for a pleasant moment. It is the desire for that pleasant moment to last. It is the deep craving for continuity, for security, for permanence. It is the thirst to be somebody, to have a solid, stable, and admirable identity. This is the fuel of ambition, the drive to build a legacy, to make a mark on the world. It is the clinging to our roles as a good parent, a successful professional, a healthy person, a wise individual. When we experience something good, like being in love or achieving a major goal, this thirst immediately arises and whispers, "Don't let this end." It is the source of our deep fear of loss. The thirst for existence is what makes us cling so tightly to our health, our youth, our possessions, and our loved ones. We try to control the future, not just to make it pleasant, but to make it a secure fortress where our sense of self and everything we attach to that self will be safe forever. The third form is the mirror image of the first two. It is the thirst for non-existence, or vibhava tanha. This is the violent urge for unpleasant things to go away. It is the craving to annihilate, to destroy, to escape from anything that we find painful, uncomfortable, boring, or threatening. When you feel a surge of anger towards someone who has wronged you, that is the thirst for non-existence. When you feel a wave of anxiety and immediately reach for your phone to distract yourself, that is the thirst for non-existence. When you try to bury a painful memory, or ignore a difficult emotion, or lash out at criticism, you are driven by this powerful thirst. It is the energy of aversion. It cannot tolerate imperfection or discomfort. It declares war on any aspect of reality that does not conform to its desires. It says, "This feeling, this situation, this person should not be here. It must be eliminated." These three thirsts work together, forming the blueprint for our entire strategy of control. Our life becomes a frantic, never-ending project. The goal of this project is to construct a personalized reality where we are constantly supplied with pleasant things, where everything we value is made permanent and invulnerable, and where everything we find unpleasant is immediately banished from existence. This is the impossible task that Tanha assigns to us. It is the job description for the general manager of the universe that we all try to be. We are commanded by our own thirst to build a permanent palace on the surface of a flowing river. There is a powerful story that illustrates the nature of this process perfectly. Imagine a man, shipwrecked and adrift on a small raft in the middle of a vast ocean. The sun beats down mercilessly, and he is tormented by a raging thirst that feels like fire in his throat. All around him, as far as the eye can see, is water. In his delirium and desperation, he forgets what he knows to be true. He cups his hands, scoops up the clear, cool salt water from the ocean, and brings it to his lips. He drinks it down, and for one brief, beautiful moment, the coolness soothes his parched throat. It feels like salvation. It feels like relief. But this relief is a cruel deception. Within minutes, the immense load of salt hits his system. His body, in its effort to process the salt, must draw even more water from his cells, leaving him more dehydrated than before. His initial thirst, which was merely an agony, now becomes a raging, maddening fire. In his panic, he no longer remembers the cause. He only remembers that brief moment of relief. And so he drinks again, more desperately this time, and then again. Each drink provides a fleeting moment of coolness, followed by an ever deeper descent into the torment of his unquenchable thirst. Each sip, which promises to be the cure, is in fact the very agent of his suffering. This is the perfect metaphor for tanha. Every time we successfully control a situation to satisfy a craving, it is like taking a drink of salt water. We get a temporary hit of pleasure, a fleeting moment of relief from our mental thirst. But this very act of satisfaction reinforces the underlying habit of craving. It strengthens the thirst itself. It teaches the mind that the only way to find relief is to get the next fix, to control the next situation, to acquire the next pleasant thing, or destroy the next unpleasant one. It can never lead to lasting contentment. It only deepens our addiction to the cycle of wanting and getting, a cycle that is, by its very nature, a source of endless agitation. Our attempt to control the world is nothing more than our attempt to quench this saltwater thirst. But if satisfying this thirst only makes it stronger, what is the alternative? To find the answer, we must shift our focus. We must stop looking at the thirst itself and begin to look with unflinching honesty at the nature of the things we are so thirsty for. Are the pleasant moments, the secure identities, and the painful feelings we try so desperately to control really as solid, separate, and permanent as we believe them to be? We are driven by a powerful thirst, a deep and restless craving to arrange the world to our liking. We try to pull the things we desire closer, to hold on to them tightly, and to build walls to keep out the things we fear. This entire life project, this constant effort of controlling, managing, and resisting rests upon a single, fundamental, and largely unexamined assumption. The assumption that the world we are trying to control is, in fact, a controllable thing. We operate as if our jobs, our relationships, our bodies, and our feelings are solid, stable objects that can be manipulated and fixed in place. Today, we will gently but firmly place this assumption under the microscope. We will not argue with it, but simply observe it and see if it holds true. We will look directly at the fundamental law of nature that underpins all of existence. This law is known as Anicca. Anicca is a word from the Pali language that translates to impermanence, inconstancy, or transience. It is not a complex philosophical theory, but a simple, observable truth that is available to us in every single moment. You do not need to believe in it. You only need to look. Consider for a moment your own body. Is the body you have now the same body you had 20 years ago, or 10, or even 1? Science tells us that our cells are in a constant process of dying and being reborn. The body is not a static object, like a stone sculpture. It is a dynamic process, a flowing river of activity. It is breathing, digesting, thinking, and changing, all without your conscious control. Now, consider your mind. Where do your thoughts come from? A thought of a past memory appears. Unbidden, it stays for a few moments, and then, just as mysteriously, it vanishes, replaced by a plan for the future or a judgment about the present. Your feelings are even more fluid. A wave of happiness can arise from a simple kindness, and a wave of frustration can surge from a minor inconvenience. They are like clouds passing through the vast sky of your awareness, constantly shifting, merging, and dissolving. They are not you, and you cannot hold on to them, no more than you can grasp a fistful of smoke. This law is not limited to our internal world. Look outside. The seasons turn, one into the other, in a grand, unstoppable cycle. The solid buildings of our cities were once just ideas, and one day they will be dust. The relationships that define our lives evolve and change. People grow together or apart. The entire universe, from the fleeting existence of a subatomic particle to the slow, majestic life cycle of a star, is a dance of arising and passing away. Everything is a temporary arrangement of conditions. Nothing, absolutely nothing, exists as a fixed, independent, permanent entity. Everything is in flow. This is the truth of Anicca. Understanding this, we can now see the profound futility of our attempts to control life. Our thirst, our tanha, commands us to build a dam and stop this river of change. It commands us to freeze the water into a solid, manageable block of ice. The desire for a permanent, secure job, a relationship that never changes, a body that never ages, a mind that is always happy and calm, is an attempt to defy this universal law. It is a declaration of war on reality itself. And in this war, there can only be one loser. When we try to hold on to a pleasant experience, we create anxiety because we know deep down that it must end. The more we cling, the more we suffer when it inevitably changes. When we try to push away an unpleasant experience, we create tension and exhaustion because we are fighting a natural process. The resistance itself becomes a second layer of suffering, often more painful than the original experience. Trying to control life is like trying to build a house of cards in the middle of a gentle breeze. You can try with immense concentration and effort, but the very nature of the air itself ensures your structure will eventually fall. The problem is not the breeze. The problem is the insistence on building something solid out of something that is meant to be in motion. This realization of impermanence could, at first, sound depressing or nihilistic, but this is only because we are so accustomed to looking for happiness in permanence. The teachings of the Buddha invite us to look from a different angle. They suggest that impermanence is not a curse, but the very source of life's beauty and preciousness. Would a cherry blossom be so breathtakingly beautiful if it bloomed forever? Would a symphony be as profound and moving if the final, resonant note never faded into silence? Would a human life be as precious, as worthy of love and attention, if it were not a brief and fleeting gift? It is the very fact that things do not last that calls us to be present with them, to cherish them while they are here. Furthermore, change is the precondition for everything we value. Without impermanence, there could be no growth, no healing from a wound, no learning from a mistake, no possibility of forgiveness. A child could never become an adult. A seed could never become a tree. A stagnant, unchanging pond breeds only decay. It is the flowing, ever-changing river that teems with life and vitality. To accept Anicca is not an act of pessimism. It is the ultimate act of realism, and it is profoundly liberating. It frees you from the exhausting, impossible, and thankless job of trying to maintain the unmaintainable. There is a famous story that illustrates this journey from resisting change to wisely understanding it. A young woman named Kisa Gotami had a single infant son, whom she loved more than life itself. One day, the child fell ill and died. Consumed by a grief so powerful, it bordered on madness. She could not accept his death. She refused to believe it was real. Carrying the small, lifeless body in her arms, she went from house to house, from neighbor to neighbor, begging for a medicine that could restore her son. Some people mocked her, Others turned away in pity, but no one could help her. Finally, a wise man, seeing her torment, advised her to go and see the Buddha. Kisa Gautami rushed to the Buddha, laid her son at his feet, and explained her story, desperately pleading for the magical cure she was so certain he possessed. The Buddha listened with immense compassion and a calm heart. He did not dismiss her. He looked at her and said, "There is only one way to make the medicine that will cure your son. You must go back into the village and bring me a single mustard seed, but it must be taken from a house where no one has ever experienced a death, a house that has never known the loss of a child, a spouse, a parent, or a friend." Kisa Gautami's heart soared with hope. A single mustard seed seemed like such a simple task. She immediately began going from door to door. At the first house, she asked for a seed, and the family gladly offered it. But when she asked her crucial question, "Has anyone in this house ever died?" the woman replied, "Oh yes, the saddest thing, I lost my beloved husband just last year." Kisa Gautami went to the next house, and the next, and the next. The story was always the same. Every family had a mustard seed to give, but every family had also known the pain of loss. One had lost a parent, another a sister, another a child. As she continued her journey, from the richest mansion to the poorest hut, the deep, personal, and isolating nature of her own grief began to dissolve. She came to see that death was not a unique punishment inflicted only upon her. It was a universal condition, a shared thread in the tapestry of every human life. Her heart softened, the frantic clinging began to release its grip. With this profound realization washing over her, she was finally able to accept the truth of her son's death. She returned to the Buddha, not for a magical seed, but with a heart that was open and ready to understand. The Buddha did not offer her a way to reverse change. He offered her a way to see the truth of change so clearly that she no longer needed to fight it. Our thirst, our tanha, makes us want to be like the early Kisa Gautami, demanding a world without loss, a world that conforms to our desires. The law of nature, Anicca, tells us that reality is a village where every single house has known change and loss. The conflict between our clinging and the truth of impermanence is the central drama of our lives. The path to peace, therefore, is not found in making reality permanent, but in making our minds more flexible and accepting. We have now seen that everything we try to control, our bodies, our thoughts, our world, is as fluid and unstoppable as a river. This leads us to the most profound question of all. What about the controller? What about this I, this self, that feels so solid, so central, the one who is doing all the clinging and resisting? If everything else is impermanent, is it possible that the one who seeks to control is also just a part of the ever-changing flow? We have arrived at a critical turning point in our journey. We have stood by the banks of the river of reality and seen that everything, from our own bodies to the distant stars, is in a state of constant, ceaseless flow. This was the truth of Anicca, or impermanence. The recognition of this truth forces us to ask the most intimate and perhaps unsettling question of all. What about the observer of this flow? What about the one who feels like the center of this entire universe? What about the I that I believe myself to be? Is this I the one solid rock in the middle of the river, a permanent, unchanging witness to the chaos? Or is it possible that the observer is also just a part of the water? From the moment we become self-aware, we have a powerful, intuitive sense of being a self. It feels as though there is a little person, a chief executive officer, living in the control room of our head, somewhere just behind the eyes. This CEO receives reports from the various departments of the body: sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. It analyzes data in the form of thoughts and memories. It experiences emotions like profit and loss. And based on all this information, it makes decisions and issues commands, moving the body, speaking words, and trying to manage the external world to its own benefit. This feeling of being a separate, controlling entity is so strong that we rarely, if ever, think to question it. It is a useful convention for navigating the world. We need to say, "I am going to the store," or "I am feeling sad." But the path of wisdom invites us to gently investigate whether this useful convention is the ultimate truth of our being. We are now going to look under the hood of this intricate machine to see if we can actually find this driver, this ghost in the machine. When the Buddha embarked on this same investigation, he did not rely on faith or dogma. He used his own direct experience as a laboratory. He taught that what we call the self can be broken down into 5 fundamental components, 5 processes or aggregates. Let us look at them one by one and see if we can find a permanent, independent I anywhere within them. First, there is the body or form. Look at your own body. Where in it is the I? Is it in your hand? If you were to lose your hand, would you be any less you? Is it in your heart, your liver, your brain? The body is a collection of parts, a colony of cells, constantly changing, constantly replacing itself. It is clearly impermanent. We cannot find a solid, unchanging self there. Second, there are our feelings, or sensations. These are the raw experiences of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Is the I to be found in your feelings? If you are your happiness, what happens to you when a wave of sadness washes over you? Feelings are like the weather. They are fleeting visitors that arise and pass away. They are temporary states, not a permanent identity. Third, we have our perceptions. These are the mental labels we put on things. We see a collection of green and brown, and our mind labels it tree. We hear a series of tones and label it music. We feel a certain way and label it anger. Perceptions are essential for functioning. But are they the self? They are simply a cognitive process, a rapid-fire act of recognition and categorization, not a solid, enduring entity. Fourth, and this is a big one, are our mental formations. This includes all our thoughts, our opinions, our beliefs, our biases, our intentions, our habits, and our dreams. We are often deeply identified with our thoughts. We say, "I think," so we assume I am my thoughts. But take a moment to observe your own mind. Thoughts arise and vanish without your permission. You can have a thought that you yourself find strange or unwelcome. If you can watch your thoughts, then you cannot be your thoughts. The one who watches is necessarily separate from what is being watched. Thoughts are events that happen in the mind. They are not the mind itself, and certainly not a permanent self. Finally, we come to the 5th and most subtle component, consciousness, or the faculty of awareness itself. Surely, this must be the I, the pure awareness that knows it is seeing, knows it is hearing, knows it is thinking. But in the Buddhist analysis, even consciousness is not a standalone, permanent thing. Consciousness is understood to arise in dependence upon conditions. There is seeing consciousness, which arises when an I, a visible form, and light come together. There is hearing consciousness, which arises when an ear and a sound come together. There is thinking consciousness, which arises when the brain and a thought object come together. It is not a continuous, monolithic entity, like a light bulb that is always on. It is more like a series of sparks, arising moment by moment as a function of sense organ and sense object. It is a process, not a thing. So after this exhaustive search, through every component of our lived experience, we are left with a startling conclusion. We cannot find a permanent, independent, controlling I anywhere. The CEO is not in the office. This can be a very difficult idea to grasp, and there is a classic story that helps to illuminate it. A Greek king named Melinda, who was a brilliant and logical thinker, once came to challenge a Buddhist sage named Nagasena. The king asked for the sage's name. Nagasena replied that he was known as Nagasena, but that this was just a convenient name, a designation, and that no permanent person or soul named Nagasena could be found. The king was amused by this and challenged him with an analogy, pointing to his magnificent royal chariot. The king asked, "Reverend Sir, is this chariot the wheels?" "No, Your Majesty," replied Nagasena. "Is it the axle, the frame, the yoke, the reins?" To each question, the sage calmly answered, "No, Your Majesty." The king, confident he had trapped the sage in a logical contradiction, then declared, "Then, if the chariot is not the wheels, nor the axle, nor any of its other parts, where is this chariot?" Nagasena, with a gentle smile, turned the question back upon the king. He asked, "Your Majesty, tell me, is the chariot something other than its parts?" The king had to admit that it was not. Nagasena then delivered his final point. "Your Majesty, you have understood this perfectly. The word chariot is simply a name, a convenient label we use when the wheels, the axle, the frame, and all the other parts are assembled and function together. It has no separate, independent essence of its own." He then concluded, "In exactly the same way, the word Nagasena, or self, is simply a convenient label for the temporary coming together of the body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. When these 5 processes are gathered, we use the word self, but if we look for a separate, unchanging soul or entity behind these processes, it cannot be found. This teaching of not-self, or Anatta, can at first feel frightening. It can feel like a philosophy of annihilation, but its true purpose is not to destroy us, but to liberate us. The self that we are so desperately trying to protect, the ego we are constantly trying to inflate, the identity we are always defending, does not actually exist in the solid, permanent way we imagine it to be. This is incredibly good news. The immense, crushing burden of having to protect and defend this fragile me from the world can finally be laid down. If there is no permanent, separate self, then who is there to be fundamentally threatened by failure? Who is there to be permanently scarred by criticism? Who is there to be insulted? The entire project of controlling the world to make this me feel safe and secure becomes beautifully, wonderfully pointless. The question we have been wrestling with, who is controlling everything, simply dissolves. It is like asking, where does the flame go when you blow out a candle? The question assumes the flame is a solid thing that goes somewhere, but the flame is a process that simply ceases when its supporting conditions, the wax and the wick, and the oxygen, are removed. In the same way, the frantic urge to control is a process that can naturally cease when its primary supporting condition, the belief in a solid, separate self, is seen through with wisdom. This is the deepest antidote to the anxiety of control. It does not mean we cease to exist. The chariot still rolls along. The person called by your name still walks and talks and eats. The flow of life continues, but it is experienced with a profound lightness, an openness, and a freedom from fear, because the heavy, frightened ghost in the machine has been seen for the illusion that it is. But if there is no solid me to do the controlling, and if everything is just an impermanent, selfless flow, then what does it truly mean to let go? Is this an action that we are supposed to take? Or is it something else entirely? This is the crucial, practical question we will turn to next. Having journeyed through the profound and perhaps unsettling truths of impermanence and the selfless nature of our own being, we arrive at a crucial junction. If everything is in flow, and if there is no solid, separate I to be found at the center of it all, then what are we to do? The wisdom of the path points towards a single, powerful concept: letting go. But for many of us, particularly in a culture that prizes determination, grit, and control, these two words can be deeply misunderstood. They can sound like an admission of defeat, a call to surrender that grates against our every instinct to strive, to achieve, and to overcome. It can sound like a philosophy of passivity, of allowing oneself to be a doormat, of letting the world simply happen to you without a fight. It can feel like giving up. And so, before we can embrace its liberating power, we must first dismantle what letting go is not. We must draw a clear and compassionate distinction between the heavy, weary act of giving up and the light, courageous act of letting go. Giving up is a collapse of energy. It is born from a place of frustration, cynicism, and despair. It is the feeling of having fought a battle, lost, and now refusing to get back up. The internal narrative of giving up sounds like, "What's the point? Nothing I do matters anyway. The system is rigged, people are selfish, and I'm powerless to change anything." It is a state of resentful resignation. The body feels heavy, the heart feels closed, and the mind is shrouded in a fog of apathy. Giving up is a form of aversion, a turning away from life because it has become too painful to engage with. It is an act of closing down. Letting go, on the other hand, is an expansion of energy. It is born from a place of wisdom, courage, and a deep trust in the nature of reality. It is the feeling of having been in a tense tug of war and consciously choosing to simply drop the rope. The internal narrative of letting go sounds like, "I will pour my heart and soul into this action because it is the right thing to do. I will do it with clarity and purpose. And I will release my desperate attachment to the outcome because I understand that the outcome is not and has never been fully in my control." Letting go is an act of radical engagement with the present moment, free from the crushing weight of future expectations. The body feels light, the heart feels open, and the mind is clear. Letting go is rooted in acceptance, not aversion. It is an act of opening up to life in all its unpredictable beauty. Giving up is a bitter conclusion. Letting go is a wise and ongoing practice. So, if letting go is not about giving up on our efforts, what, precisely, are we letting go of? This is where our previous explorations become so vital. We are not letting go of our life. We are letting go of our story about our life. We each carry a thick, detailed script in our minds, a story of how things are supposed to be. This script dictates how our career should progress, how our partner should behave, how our children should turn out, how our health should be. We cling to this script with a white-knuckled grip, and we suffer immensely when reality, as it always does, deviates from our story. Letting go is the act of recognizing this script for what it is: a mental creation, a work of fiction, projected onto the future. It is the courageous act of putting down the script and being willing to improvise, to meet the real, unscripted moment with openness and curiosity. We are also letting go of the emotional and physical clenching that accompanies this clinging to our story. Take a moment to feel what it's like when you are desperately trying to control a situation. Notice the tension in your jaw, the tightness in your shoulders, the shallow quality of your breath, the knot in your stomach. This is the somatic signature of resistance. It is the body's unconscious attempt to physically hold reality in place. Letting go is a deeply physical act. It is the conscious, intentional softening of that jaw. It is the gentle release of the shoulders. It is the deliberate deepening of the breath. It is a message sent from the wise mind to the frightened body, saying, "You can relax now. You don't have to hold the world together. It is safe to be open." Letting go is a practice of noticing the clench, again and again, and gently, compassionately, inviting it to soften. And on the deepest level, we are letting go of the illusion of the controller itself. We are releasing the exhausting role of being the CEO of our lives. As we saw with the teaching of Anatta, when we look deeply, we cannot find a solid, independent entity who is in charge. The self is a process, not a thing. Therefore, the deepest form of letting go isn't an action performed by a me. It is the dawning of an understanding that there is no separate me to begin with. The struggle subsides not because I have successfully let go, but because the illusion of the I, who needs to be in control, is seen through. This is not something that can be forced. It is a gradual unburdening, a slow dissolving of a lifelong case of mistaken identity. It is the realization that you are not the anxious manager of the river. You are the river itself. To make this more concrete, let us consider the wisdom of a farmer. Imagine an unwise farmer, a man consumed by the need for control. He plants his seeds and immediately becomes a tyrant of the field. He stands over the sprouts, yelling at them to grow faster. He tries to physically pull them from the earth, believing his effort will speed up the process. He shouts at the sky, demanding rain on his schedule, and curses the sun for being too hot. He is at war with the weather. He stays up all night, patrolling his field with a tense, anxious energy, guarding against every conceivable threat. This farmer is exhausted, angry, and miserable. His frantic efforts do not help his crops. In fact, they may even harm them, compacting the soil and damaging the delicate roots. He is at war with nature, and he is losing. Now, imagine a wise farmer. She too wants a bountiful harvest, but her approach is entirely different. She understands that she is a partner with nature, not its master. She begins by preparing the soil with immense care, removing the rocks and adding nourishment. She selects the best seeds for the climate and the season. She sows them with a focused and loving attention. She waters them diligently, providing exactly what is needed. When weeds appear, she gently removes them, protecting the space for her crop to flourish. She does everything that is within her power to do, and she does it with a quality of presence, skill, and dedication. Her work is a form of meditation. And then, having done all she can, she lets go. She goes home, rests, and trusts the process. She understands that she cannot command the sun to shine, nor the clouds to rain. She cannot control the overnight temperature. She cannot fathom the mysterious alchemy within the seed itself, the life force that transforms earth and water and light into sustenance. She has done her part, and now she must surrender the outcome to a million other conditions that are completely beyond her control. Her peace of mind is not held hostage by the size of the final harvest. She finds dignity and satisfaction in the quality of her own labor, in the wisdom of her own actions. This is the essence of letting go. It is doing your part, fully and completely, and then releasing your attachment to the fruits of your labor. Our life is this field. Our intentions are the seeds. Our mindful effort is the water and the care. The results, whether they come in the form of a promotion, a successful creative project, or the response of another human being, are the harvest, which is never, ever, entirely up to us. This shift in perspective, from controlling outcomes to focusing on skillful action, is not just a philosophical idea. It is a profoundly practical strategy for living with less anxiety and more integrity. Consider a difficult conversation you need to have with a loved one. The clinging approach involves trying to control the entire exchange. You spend hours mentally rehearsing the perfect script, planning for every possible counter-argument. You enter the conversation with the primary goal of winning, of making them see things your way, of controlling their emotional reaction. The result is almost always disastrous. You are so busy running your script that you don't truly listen. You are so attached to the outcome that you become defensive and anxious, and this energy is immediately felt by the other person, causing them to become defensive in turn. Communication breaks down. Now consider the letting go approach. You still prepare, but you prepare differently. You get clear on your own intention. Perhaps your intention is simply to express your feelings honestly and kindly, and to listen to their perspective with an open heart. You let go of the need to be right. You let go of trying to control their reaction. You speak your truth, and then you create a space for them to speak theirs. You focus only on what you can control, the quality of your own speaking and the quality of your own listening. The outcome is unknown, but you have acted with integrity and courage. You have honored yourself and the other person, and the chances of a true, heartfelt connection are infinitely higher. Think of a large, important project at work. The clinging mind obsesses over the final outcome. It is haunted by the fear of failure and driven by the desperate need for approval. This leads to micromanagement, a paralysis of creativity, and a state of chronic stress. You are constantly checking and rechecking, not to improve the work, but to soothe your own anxiety. You burn yourself out, and you alienate your colleagues. The letting go mind, the mind of the wise farmer, approaches it differently. It focuses on the process. It asks, what is the one next step I can take with excellence? It pours its energy into the quality of each task, finding satisfaction in the act of creation itself. It collaborates with a sense of trust, empowering others to do their best work. When setbacks occur, they are not seen as personal failures, but simply as new conditions that require a new, skillful response. This approach is not only more peaceful, it is almost always more effective. It frees up the creative energy that anxiety consumes, leading to better work, better relationships, and a profound sense of well-being, regardless of the final result. This is the freedom that letting go offers. It is the liberation from the exhausting, impossible, full-time job of trying to be the general manager of the universe. It is a radical act of courage and trust. It is the courage to participate fully in the dance of life, without insisting that you know all the steps. It is the trust that if you focus on dancing your own part with grace and attention, you can handle whatever music the orchestra chooses to play. This is a beautiful and liberating philosophy. But philosophy alone is not enough. To untangle ourselves from a lifetime of habitual clinging, we need more than just an idea. We need a practical tool. We need a way to train the mind to see the impulse to control the very moment it arises, and to find that sacred pause, that space of freedom where we can choose a different, wiser response. This tool is the very foundation of the path we are walking. It is the art and the practice of mindful awareness. We have arrived at a beautiful and profoundly liberating understanding. We have seen that letting go is not a passive surrender, but the highest form of wise and courageous engagement with life. It is the realization that our peace comes not from bending the world to our will, but from gracefully aligning ourselves with its ceaseless flow. Yet, understanding this intellectually is one thing, and embodying it in our daily lives is another entirely. Our minds have been conditioned for decades, even a lifetime, to operate from a place of fear and control. The habit of grasping, clinging, and resisting has carved deep canyons in our neural pathways. To change the course of such a mighty river, we cannot simply stand on the bank and wish it to be different. We must begin the patient, gentle, and persistent work of digging a new channel. For this work, we need a tool. We need a way to see our own mental habits with clarity, so that we are no longer their unwitting slaves. The tool for this sacred work is known as mindfulness. In the ancient language of the Buddha, the word is sati, which carries the beautiful meaning of to remember. What is it that we are remembering? We are remembering to be present. We are remembering to come home to the only moment we ever truly have, which is this one, right now. Mindfulness is not, as it is often misunderstood to be, about emptying the mind or stopping our thoughts. This is an impossible goal that only leads to more frustration. Nor is it about trying to force ourselves into a state of blissful calm. It is something far simpler, more honest, and more accessible. Mindfulness is the gentle art of paying attention to your present moment experience, on purpose, without judgment. Let us break that down. Paying attention means consciously directing your awareness. On purpose means it is an intentional act. And the most crucial part, without judgment, means we observe what is happening without layering on stories of good or bad, right or wrong, like or dislike. We simply allow things to be as they are. In our normal, unobserved state, we are completely fused with our mental and emotional activity. When a thought of worry arises, we become the worry. We are lost in the frightening movie of the future that our mind is projecting. When an impulse of anger surges, we are the anger, and we often speak or act from that place before we even know what is happening. We are like a person sitting in the front row of a cinema, so absorbed in the film that we forget we are in a theater. We laugh with the hero, we cry with the hero, and we feel the terror of the monster as if it were real. Mindfulness is the simple act of remembering that you are in the theater. It is a subtle but revolutionary shift in perspective. Instead of being the character in the movie, you become the calm, non-judgmental audience. You can still see the whole film, but you are no longer lost in it. In practice, this shift is cultivated by the simple act of noticing. Instead of being consumed by the desire to control a situation, we learn to inwardly, gently, note to ourselves, I notice a strong urge to control is present. Instead of being hijacked by anxiety, we observe, I notice the sensations of anxiety, a tightness in the chest, a racing heart, are here right now. This simple act of noticing, of naming what is present, creates a space. It is a sacred pause between a stimulus and our habitual reaction to it. Before mindfulness, the stimulus, perhaps a critical comment from another person, immediately triggers a reaction of defensiveness and anger. Stimulus and reaction are fused together. There is no freedom. With mindfulness, a space opens up. The critical comment arises. We feel the flash of anger and the impulse to lash out. But because we are practicing mindfulness, we can notice it. There is the anger. There is the urge to defend myself. In that small gap of awareness, freedom is born. We have a choice. We do not have to be a puppet of our own anger. We can feel the anger without letting it dictate our words or actions. We can choose to take a breath. We can choose to listen. We can choose to respond from a place of wisdom rather than raw reactivity. This is the power of mindfulness. It doesn't eliminate the difficulties of life, but it gives us the freedom to choose how we meet them. The most universal and accessible training ground for this skill is the breath. The breath is our most faithful companion. It is with us from the moment we are born until the moment we die. It is always happening in the present moment. You cannot breathe in the past or in the future. And it is a perfect, living demonstration of the balance between effort and surrender. Let us take a moment to practice with it right now. Wherever you are, just allow yourself to settle into a comfortable and dignified posture with your back reasonably straight but not rigid. You can gently close your eyes or lower your gaze to a point on the floor in front of you. There is nothing special you need to do. Simply bring your attention, as if you were shining a soft and gentle flashlight, to the physical sensations of your own breathing. You don't need to change your breath, control it, or judge it as good or bad. Just allow it to be exactly as it is. Notice the feeling of the air as it enters your nostrils. Perhaps it feels slightly cool. Notice the feeling as it leaves your body, perhaps a little warmer. You might notice the gentle rise and fall of your chest, or the expansion and release of your abdomen. Choose one of these spots as your home base, your anchor. Your only job for these few moments is to rest your attention there, feeling the simple, rhythmic, physical sensations of breathing, one breath at a time. As you do this, you will notice something profound. You are not doing the breathing, it is being done for you. The intelligence of your body knows exactly how to breathe without any conscious help from the CEO in your head. For these moments, you can let go of being the manager. You can trust this natural, life-sustaining process. The breath is our constant teacher in the art of letting go. Now, it is absolutely certain that your mind will wander. It will drift off into planning, remembering, worrying, or daydreaming. This is not a mistake. It is not a sign of failure. It is simply what minds do. The moment you realize your mind has wandered is a moment of victory. It is a moment of mindfulness. You have woken up from the dream of thought. When this happens, the practice is simple. Gently note where your mind has gone, planning, or worrying, and then, with the kindness you might use to guide a small puppy back to its bed, gently and without judgment, escort your attention back to the physical sensations of your breath. Every single time you do this, you are strengthening the muscle of mindfulness. You are weakening the habit of being lost in thought and strengthening the habit of being present. There is a beautiful story that illustrates the function of mindfulness. Think of the mind as a great walled city. An untrained mind is like a city with no one guarding the gates. Anyone and anything can rush in at any time. A band of thieves, a group of rebels, a peddler of lies. The city is in a constant state of chaos because it is constantly being taken over by these uninvited visitors. This is the mind that is hijacked by every passing emotion and impulse. Another kind of mind, the mind that is desperate to control everything, is like a city with a terrified gatekeeper. This gatekeeper tries to slam the gates shut and keep everyone out. He is so afraid of potential threats that he refuses entry to everyone, even the merchants bringing food, the healers bringing medicine, and the messengers bringing good news. The city is safe from invasion, but it is starving and isolated. This is the mind that tries to suppress its feelings and deny its reality. The mindful mind is like a city with a wise, calm, and diligent gatekeeper. This gatekeeper does not fight with everyone who approaches, nor does he slam the gate shut in fear. He simply sits at the gate and observes. With a clear and steady gaze, he notes everyone who comes and goes. Ah, he notes, here is a farmer with his cart of grain. He is welcome. Then, here is a traveler with a story. Let him rest. And then, here is a man with a dagger hidden in his cloak. I must alert the city guard, because the gatekeeper knows what is happening at the gate. He is not at the mercy of it. He can respond wisely to each situation. Our mindfulness is this wise gatekeeper. It sits at the gates of our mind and senses, and it simply notes what arises. Ah, here is the feeling of sadness. Here is a memory of a past joy. Here is a thought of self-criticism. Here is a strong impulse to check my phone. By simply knowing what is there, without immediately reacting, we regain our sovereignty. We are no longer a chaotic city, nor a starved fortress. We are a well-governed kingdom, at peace with the traffic of life. This is the art we are cultivating. We are learning how to hold this light of mindful awareness. So, now that we have polished our lamp, what happens when we shine it into the inner world of our own mind? What kind of landscapes, what kind of weather patterns do we discover there? We have now polished the lamp of mindfulness. We have cultivated a gentle, steady light of awareness that can be directed at our own experience. With this tool in hand, we turn inward. For many of us, this is a daunting prospect. We are afraid of what we might find in the darkness of our own minds. We may have spent years, even decades, avoiding a direct look, keeping ourselves busy, distracted, and numb. We fear that if we truly look inside, we will find a monster, a fundamental flaw, a darkness that will consume us. But the consistent discovery, made by practitioners for thousands of years, is that what we find inside is not a monster. What we discover is something far more natural, far more impersonal, and far more manageable. When we shine the light of mindfulness into our inner world, what we find is simply the weather. This is perhaps the most gentle and transformative metaphor for understanding the mind. Your mind is not a battlefield to be won or a problem to be solved. It is more like the sky, and your thoughts, your emotions, your moods, and your memories are like the weather that passes through that sky. Some days, the sky of your mind is clear, blue, and filled with the warmth of sunshine. These are days of joy, ease, and contentment. Other days, you might find light, fluffy clouds drifting by, pleasant daydreams or passing thoughts. Then, there are the other days when dark, heavy storm clouds gather. These are our moods of sadness, frustration, or fear. Sometimes, a sudden thunderstorm of anger or panic can erupt, with flashes of lightning and deafening thunder. Other times, a thick, disorienting fog of confusion or depression can settle in, making it difficult to see the path ahead. The first and most liberating insight that this metaphor offers is that the weather is impersonal. You do not blame yourself for a rainy day. You do not look at a thunderstorm and think, I have failed. I should have made it sunny. You understand, instinctively, that the rain is the result of a vast and complex set of atmospheric conditions, temperature, humidity, wind patterns, that have nothing to do with you personally. We must learn to relate to our own inner weather with this same wisdom. Did you decide to feel a wave of anxiety this morning? Did you consciously choose to have that repetitive negative thought loop replay in your head? Of course not. These mental states arise due to their own complex web of conditions, past experiences, biochemical processes, and present moment triggers, to take them personally, to believe that I am an anxious person, instead of the feeling of anxiety is present right now, is the root of so much unnecessary suffering. It is the difference between saying, "It is raining," and believing I am the rain. This leads to the second crucial insight. We cannot control the weather. Imagine going outside during a downpour, shaking your fist at the heavens, and commanding the clouds to stop raining. Imagine trying to push a fog away with your hands, or trying to blow a hurricane off its course with your own breath. It is a perfect image of futility, of wasted energy. Yet, this is precisely the strategy we employ with our own minds, day in and day out. We feel a surge of sadness, and we immediately try to push it away. We have a worrying thought, and we get into an argument with it, trying to wrestle it into submission. We feel bored, and we desperately search for a distraction. We are constantly at war with our own inner weather. This battle is not only unwinnable, but it is also profoundly exhausting. It adds a second layer of suffering on top of the first. There is the initial discomfort of the storm itself, the sadness or the fear, and then there is the suffering we create with our own resistance, the self-judgment that says, "I shouldn't be feeling this way," or the panic that says, "This feeling will never end." You are getting soaked by the rain, and then you are beating yourself up for being wet. So what is the alternative? If we cannot control the weather, what can we do? The wisdom of this path lies in a radical shift of identity. The practice is to stop identifying with the weather and to start identifying with the sky. Think about the sky itself. It holds everything. It allows the gentle sunshine, the soft clouds, the violent thunderstorms, and the thickest fog. Through it all, the sky itself is never touched, never harmed, never stained. A storm does not scar the sky. The darkest clouds do not pollute its fundamental nature. The sky's innate quality is to be vast, open, and unconditionally accepting of whatever weather patterns pass through it. This sky is a metaphor for your own awareness, your own consciousness. It is the silent, knowing presence that was there when you were a happy child, that was there during your difficult teenage years, and that is here, right now, reading these words. The weather of your life has changed countless times, but the sky of your awareness has remained. The practice of mindfulness is the practice of learning to abide as the sky. When a dark thought of self-doubt arises, you don't have to become the thought. You can rest as the sky and notice, with a gentle interest, "Ah, look at that. A cloud of doubt is passing through." When a brilliant flash of joy or inspiration comes, you can rest as the sky and appreciate it fully. "Ah, sunshine, how beautiful," without desperately trying to cling to it, because you know the nature of weather is to change. When you identify with the sky, you find an unshakable peace that is not dependent on the weather being good. Your well-being is no longer held hostage by your moods. You can feel the warmth of the sun more fully because you are not afraid of the next cloud, and you can endure the inevitable storms of life with far more grace and resilience because you know, with a deep, intuitive certainty, that they are temporary events happening within you, not the entirety of you. You know that behind the darkest clouds, the sun of your own awareness is still and always shining. There is a story often told about the great Thai meditation master, Ajahn Chah, that perfectly illustrates this wise and compassionate approach. He taught that a difficult emotion, like deep sorrow or fear, is like an unwelcome visitor knocking at the door of your house. Our typical reaction is to panic. We see the visitor through the peephole, and we immediately lock the door, shut the blinds, and turn off all the lights. hoping they will think no one is home and just go away. We spend all our energy barricading ourselves inside, living in a state of siege, while the visitor just keeps knocking, sometimes more and more loudly. This is the path of resistance. Ajahn Chah suggested a different strategy. When that difficult visitor, sorrow, knocks on your door, you walk calmly to the door and you open it. You look at the visitor and you say, "Ah, sorrow, it's you. I see you. Welcome. Please, come in." You lead sorrow into your living room. You offer it the most comfortable chair and you say, "Can I make you a cup of tea?" You don't have to like that sorrow is there. You don't have to agree with its stories. And you certainly don't have to let it redecorate your house and move in forever. You simply offer it your calm, kind, non-judgmental presence. You sit with it and you listen to what it has to say. When we stop fighting our difficult emotions and instead meet them with this quality of mindful, compassionate attention, a miracle happens. They lose their monstrous power over us. They are seen for what they are, just energy, just temporary visitors. And, like all visitors, if you allow them to be there and listen to them for a while, they will eventually get up, thank you for the tea, and leave on their own. Our inner world is not a problem to be solved. It is a natural landscape to be understood and navigated with wisdom. By learning to be the sky and not the weather, we find a peace that is not conditional, a freedom that is always available, right here, right now, regardless of the forecast. This practice of allowing the clouds to pass is beautiful and freeing. But what about the most intense storms? What about the hurricanes of grief, the deep fogs of depression, or the lightning strikes of trauma? Is it truly possible to meet even these with openness? This requires a deeper level of practice, a fearless commitment to reality as it is. This is the practice of radical acceptance. We have learned to be the sky for the ordinary weather of the mind, to watch the clouds of thought and feeling pass by with a gentle, mindful awareness. This practice brings an incredible sense of peace and freedom in our daily lives. But what of the storms that are not so ordinary? What of the hurricanes of profound grief that shake our very foundations? What of the persistent, chilling fogs of chronic pain or deep anxiety that obscure our path for weeks, months, or even years? In these moments, simply observing the storm from a distance can feel impossible because we are in the very heart of it, being tossed by the wind and rain. For these moments, we are called to a deeper, more courageous, and more intimate practice. It is the practice that lies at the very heart of healing and freedom. It is the practice of radical acceptance. Now, the word acceptance can be deeply problematic for many of us. It can conjure images of weakness, of passive resignation, of giving up the fight for something better. It can sound like we are being told to condone harmful behavior, to accept injustice, or to simply roll over and let life happen to us. Therefore, let us be exceptionally clear about what radical acceptance is not. It is not resignation. Resignation is a state of hopeless despair, a belief that nothing can be done. Acceptance is a state of clear-eyed realism, a starting point for wise action. Radical acceptance does not mean you approve of a painful reality, nor does it mean you have to like it. It does not mean you should stay in a harmful situation or tolerate abuse. Radical acceptance is simply the courageous and complete acknowledgement of reality as it is, right here, right now, without arguing with it. It is the act of looking at a situation, whether it is an external event or an internal feeling, and saying, this is what is true in this moment. It is the end of the war with what is. Imagine it is pouring rain outside. You can spend all your energy pressed against the window, yelling at the sky, lamenting the fact that it is raining, complaining that your plans are ruined, insisting that it should be sunny. This entire argument with the reality of the rain is a complete and utter waste of your life force. It achieves nothing and only creates immense frustration. Radical acceptance in this scenario is not about pretending you love the rain. It is simply the act of looking outside and saying, "It is raining." That's it. The argument is over. The fact is accepted. Only from that point of clarity can you make a wise and effective choice. Now that I have accepted that it is raining, what is the best course of action? Shall I get an umbrella? Shall I postpone my plans? Or shall I decide to go outside and dance in it? The freedom to choose, the power to act wisely, only becomes available after we have first accepted the reality we are faced with. So much of our daily exhaustion comes from this ongoing, low-grade argument with reality. We are constantly running an internal monologue of, "This shouldn't be happening. That person shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't feel this way. It's not fair." This inner commentary is the engine of our discontent. It is like trying to drive a car with one foot pressed firmly on the accelerator and the other pressed just as firmly on the brake. There is a tremendous amount of noise, heat, and wasted fuel, but you go nowhere. The practice of radical acceptance is the practice of consciously taking your foot off the brake. It is the practice of dropping your side of the tug-of-war with reality. We do this by mentally whispering a simple, courageous yes to the truth of the moment. This is not a yes of approval. It is a yes of acknowledgement. When a wave of deep sadness arises, the non-accepting mind says, "No, go away. I can't handle this." The accepting mind says, "Yes, sadness is here now. This is the reality of this moment." When you have lost a job, the non-accepting mind replays the event endlessly, thinking, "This shouldn't have happened." The accepting mind says, "Yes, this has happened. This is my new reality." The moment you say this internal yes, the struggle stops. The rope goes slack in your hands. And in that stillness, for the first time, you are free to truly respond to your life instead of just reacting to it. You are free to ask the truly important question. Given that this is so, what is the wisest and most compassionate thing I can do next? The Buddha told a story that brilliantly illustrates this principle. It is called the parable of the second arrow. He said that in life, from time to time, we will all be struck by a first arrow. Imagine you are walking through a forest, and an arrow flies from the trees and strikes you in the arm. There is a sharp, immediate, and undeniable pain. This first arrow, the Buddha said, represents the unavoidable pains and sorrows of human existence. It is the sickness that visits our body. It is the pain of losing someone we love. It is the disappointment of a dream that does not come to pass. It is the unkindness of others. These things are a part of life, like the rain and the wind. They happen to everyone. There is no life that is free from these first arrows. Now, as you stand there in the forest, wounded by this first arrow, what is your next move? The untrained mind, the mind of non-acceptance, immediately reacts with a flurry of secondary suffering. It wails, "Why me? This is a catastrophe. I can't believe this happened to me. The pain is unbearable. What did I do to deserve this?" This reaction, this storm of resistance, anger, fear, and self-pity is like picking up a second arrow and deliberately, with your own hand, shooting yourself in the exact same wound. This is the second arrow, The first arrow causes pain. The second arrow causes suffering. The pain of the first arrow is unavoidable. The suffering of the second arrow is entirely optional. It is the suffering we create ourselves through our own resistance to the pain of the first arrow. Radical acceptance is the practice of learning not to shoot the second arrow. It is the incredible courage to be willing to feel the clean pain of the first arrow, to just let it be there, without adding the poison of our stories, our judgments, and our resistance on top of it. It is the willingness to tend to the original wound with care, rather than making it deeper and more infected with our own struggle. How do we practice this in our lives? We begin with our inner world, with the weather of our minds. When a difficult emotion like fear arises, our lifelong habit is to fight it, to distract ourselves, to numb it. The practice of acceptance is to turn towards it, to let the physical sensations of fear be present in the body without trying to make them go away. To say, okay, this is what fear feels like. I accept that this is what is happening in my body and mind right now. Paradoxically, this warm, allowing attention is often the very thing that helps the fear to pass. Resistance is its fuel. Acceptance cuts the fuel line. This practice also applies to the external world. Accepting that a situation is unjust does not mean we become passive. It means we first see the situation with absolute clarity, without the fog of our own denial or rage. We accept the fact of what is happening. From this place of clear seeing, we can then act with immense power and precision. The activist who accepts the reality of a social problem is far more effective than the one who is blinded by their own reactive anger. The parent who accepts the reality of their child's difficult behavior is able to respond with wisdom rather than with frustrated rage. Action born from radical acceptance is skillful, focused, and powerful. Action born from resistance is reactive, messy, and often makes things worse. This practice of saying yes to the truth of the present moment is one of the most powerful things we can ever learn. It is the end of the war with reality. It is the key that unlocks the prison of our own resistance, allowing us to finally be free. But we must be honest. This practice of facing pain and difficulty with an open heart can feel incredibly challenging. To be willing to feel the wound of the first arrow without immediately firing the second requires a powerful inner resource. It requires a deep and gentle strength. To hold ourselves in these difficult moments, we need to apply a healing medicine directly to the heart. We need to soften. We need to learn the art of applying the soothing balm of compassion. We have walked the path of radical acceptance, the courageous practice of meeting the sharp, unavoidable arrows of life with a clear and unwavering yes. We have committed to feeling the clean pain of the first arrow, without firing the second arrow of our own resistance. But this is not an act of cold, stoic endurance. It is not about gritting our teeth and bearing the unbearable. To sit with our own pain, to face the difficult truths of our lives with an open heart, requires an immense and profound softness. To hold ourselves in these moments of trial, as a loving mother would hold a crying child, requires a gentle hand. This gentle hand, this healing medicine that makes the entire path possible, is the practice of compassion. In the Buddhist tradition, this quality of the heart has two primary expressions. The first is called metta, which translates as loving kindness. Think of metta as the unconditional, radiant warmth of the sun. It is a simple, boundless wish for all beings, including ourselves, to be happy, to be well, and to be at peace. It seeks nothing in return. It is an offering, a gentle radiation of goodwill. The second expression is called karuna, which translates as compassion. If loving kindness is the sun's warmth, compassion is the specific, active response that arises when that warmth touches a place of suffering. It is the quivering of the heart in the presence of pain. It is the active wish for a being, including ourselves, to be free from that pain. It is the loving parent who rushes to comfort a child who has fallen and scraped their knee. One is a general wish for well-being. The other is a specific wish for healing. Both are essential. For many of us, especially those raised in cultures that emphasize self-reliance and strength, extending these qualities to our friends, our family, our pets, or even strangers can feel natural. But when we are asked to turn this gentle attention inward, toward ourselves, we often meet a wall of resistance. Our default response to our own perceived failures and shortcomings is not kindness, but a harsh and relentless self-criticism. When we fail to live up to our own expectations, when we lose control of our temper, when we stumble on our path, a familiar voice arises in our minds. It is the voice of the inner critic. It is the voice that says, "You should have known better. You are so weak. You'll never get this right. You failed again." This inner critic is the archer who fires not just the second arrow, but the third, the fourth, and the fifth, riddling our hearts with the poison of shame and self-recrimination long after the original painful event has passed. Self-compassion is the direct antidote to this poison. It is the practice of learning to become our own best friend. The practice of self-compassion can be cultivated through 3 simple, intentional steps. The first step is mindfulness itself. We must first acknowledge that we are suffering. We pause and notice the pain without judgment. This is a moment of suffering, or simply, this is hard. The second step is to connect with our common humanity. We remind ourselves that our struggle is not a sign of a unique, personal defect. To make mistakes, to feel pain, to be imperfect, is an inescapable part of being human. We can say to ourselves, struggling in this way is what everyone goes through. I am not alone. This simple reminder dissolves the isolating wall of shame. The third and most important step is kindness. We actively offer ourselves a gesture of warmth and care. Perhaps you place a gentle hand over your own heart, a simple, powerful gesture of self-soothing, and then you offer yourself words of kindness, not as an affirmation to deny the pain, but as a balm to soothe it. You might say, "May I be kind to myself in this difficult moment. May I give myself the patience I need. May I accept myself just as I am, imperfections and all." Let us imagine how this transforms our relationship with the illusion of control. You find yourself feeling intense anxiety about a future event you cannot control. The old habit, driven by the inner critic, would be to scold yourself. Stop being so anxious. You need to be stronger. Just get over it. This, of course, only creates more tension and anxiety. The self-compassionate approach is radically different. You pause. You place a hand on your heart. You say, "This is a moment of suffering. It is hard to feel this much anxiety. It is part of being human to feel fear when facing the unknown. May I be kind to myself. May I hold this anxiety with gentleness." You are not trying to make the anxiety go away. You are changing your relationship to it. You are bringing a quality of warmth and friendship to your own pain. This is how we tend to the wound of the first arrow. There is a powerful story from the life of the Buddha that embodies this quality of active compassion. In the community of monks, there was one man who had contracted a terrible skin disease. His body was covered in oozing, foul-smelling sores, and he was so weak he could not care for himself. He lay alone in his own filth, and none of the other monks, out of revulsion and fear, would go near him. He was completely abandoned in his suffering. The Buddha, hearing of the monk's condition, went straight to his dwelling. He did not stand at a distance and offer words of wisdom. Instead, the first thing he did was to begin boiling water. Then, with his own hands, the Buddha himself began to tenderly wash the sick monk's body, cleaning his sores and gently changing his soiled robes. His close disciple, Anatta, helped him. After they had cleaned the monk and made him comfortable, the Buddha gathered all the other monks together. He looked at them and said, "You have no mother or father here to look after you. If you do not care for one another, who then will care for you? Whoever would tend to me should tend to the sick." This story reveals the true nature of karuna. It is not a lofty sentiment. It is practical, embodied, and fearless. It does not turn away from the messiness and difficulty of suffering, and the Buddha's final instruction is a profound teaching on self-compassion. Since we do not have a Buddha physically present to care for us, we must learn to care for ourselves. When we are sick with anxiety or wounded by failure, we must learn to be the one who boils the water and gently washes our own wounds. When we cultivate this capacity to hold our own suffering with such tenderness, a beautiful transformation occurs. Our hearts naturally begin to open to the suffering of others. The practice of self-compassion is the gateway to genuine compassion for all. When we intimately understand our own struggle with the illusion of control, our own vulnerability to fear, and our own pain when struck by life's arrows, we can finally see that every other human being is in the exact same predicament. That person who is acting with arrogance and pride, we can see that beneath the surface, there is likely a deep insecurity, a desperate attempt to control how others see them. That person who is filled with anger and resentment, we can see that they are riddled with the pain of their own second arrows. We do not have to condone their harmful actions, but we can see the suffering that drives those actions. And in that seeing, our harsh judgment begins to soften into patience. Our anger can begin to transform into a quiet wish for them to be free from the suffering that causes them to act in such a way. The world slowly ceases to be a collection of adversaries and competitors and begins to reveal itself as a fellowship of fellow travelers, each of us doing our best to find our way home, each of us wounded, and each of us worthy of kindness. Compassion, then, is not a spiritual luxury or a sentimental add-on to the path of wisdom. It is an absolute necessity. It is the soothing oil that reduces the painful friction of life. It is the loving embrace that gives us the courage to practice radical acceptance. It is the medicine that allows the heart to remain soft and open in a world that can often feel hard and unforgiving. When our actions are guided by the clear seeing of mindfulness and infused with the warmth of a compassionate heart, the very nature of our engagement with the world begins to change. Our actions are no longer just blind, habitual reactions. They become intentional, considered, and skillful. This leads us to a new and profound understanding of the law of cause and effect, the law of karma. When our hearts are softened by compassion and our minds are steadied by the gentle light of mindfulness, the very nature of our actions in the world begins to shift. We are no longer driven solely by blind habit and reactive emotion. This brings us to a crucial stage in our journey, an exploration of one of the most powerful and perhaps one of the most profoundly misunderstood concepts from Eastern wisdom, the law of karma. In the Western vocabulary, the word karma is often used casually, sometimes as a synonym for fate or destiny, other times as a kind of cosmic justice system where a person who does something wrong is swiftly punished by the universe. But these popular notions barely scratch the surface of, and often distort, the deep and empowering teaching the Buddha actually offered. To walk this path with clarity, we must first let go of these misconceptions. Karma is not fate. It is not a pre-written script for your life that you are powerless to change. In fact, the true teaching of karma is the absolute opposite of fatalism. It is a radical declaration of human freedom and the power of present moment choice. Nor is karma a system of reward and punishment, meted out by some external divine judge who keeps a cosmic scorecard of our good and bad deeds. The law of karma is far more like a natural law, as impersonal and reliable as the law of gravity. If you release a stone from your hand, it falls to the ground. The stone is not being punished for being released. It is simply following the inherent nature of things. In the same way, actions driven by certain intentions naturally and lawfully lead to certain kinds of results. It is a law of cause and effect, not a system of crime and punishment. The Buddha was exceptionally precise in his definition, and this is the key that unlocks the entire teaching. He said, "It is volition, it is intention that I call karma. Having willed, one acts through body, speech, and mind." Karma is not the action itself. It is not the result of the action. It is the intention, the volition, the quality of mind that motivates the action. This shifts the entire focus from the external world to our own inner landscape. The same physical act can be a source of radically different karma, depending entirely on the intention behind it. If a surgeon takes a scalpel and cuts into a person's body with the clear intention to heal them, that is a profoundly wholesome and skillful act. If a thief takes a knife and cuts a person with the intention to harm and to steal, that is a profoundly unwholesome and unskillful act. The external action of cutting is similar, but the intention, the volition, the karma could not be more different. One comes from compassion, the other from greed and hatred. To understand this more deeply, we can think of our mind as a garden. Every moment, we are planting seeds in this garden. Our intentions are these seeds. An intention rooted in greed, hatred, or confusion is like planting a thorny, poisonous weed. An intention rooted in generosity, kindness, or clarity is like planting a seed that will grow into a beautiful, life-giving flower. The actions of our body and our speech are the way we water and tend to these seeds. And the most immediate result of our karma is not some far-off future event, but the immediate conditioning of our own mind. Every time you choose to act with impatience or anger, you are strengthening the neural pathway of anger. You are making it slightly easier to get angry the next time. You are conditioning your own mind to be an angry place. Conversely, every time you make the conscious choice to act with patience and kindness, especially when it's difficult, you are strengthening the habit of patience. You are literally shaping your mind to become a more peaceful and loving place. We are the architects of our own consciousness, and our intentions are our primary tools. This understanding of karma, far from being a frightening doctrine, is the very thing that liberates us from the obsession with controlling the future. It allows us to finally, truly let go. Why? Because we realize that we have almost no control over the vast, intricate web of conditions that will produce a specific outcome in the world. But we have, in this very moment, absolute power over the quality of our own intention. This is where our freedom lies. We stop wasting our precious life energy worrying about the part we cannot control, the future harvest. and we learn to pour all of our attention and care into the one part we can control, the quality of the seed we are planting. Right here, right now, our spiritual practice becomes exquisitely simple and practical. It becomes a moment-to-moment inquiry. Before I speak, what is my intention? Is it to build connection or to create division? Is it to help or to harm? Before I act, what is motivating me? Is this coming from a place of fear and contraction, or from a place of wisdom and love? Making good karma is not about performing grand, public gestures to impress a cosmic judge. It is the quiet, dignified, and continuous work of purifying our own heart and mind, one intention at a time. The power of present moment karma to transform a life is beautifully illustrated in the story of a man named Angulimala. He was a terrifying serial killer who roamed the forests, murdering travelers and collecting their fingers to wear as a gruesome garland. He was the embodiment of hatred and delusion, and the unskillful karma he was generating was unimaginably heavy. The Buddha, filled with a fearless compassion, walked knowingly into Angulimala's forest. Angulimala saw him and began to chase him, intending to kill him. But a strange thing happened. Though the Buddha was only walking calmly, Angulimala, running with all his might, could not catch up to him. Exasperated, he yelled, "Stop, monk! Stop!" The Buddha, still walking, turned and replied with a calm and powerful voice, "I have stopped, Angulimala. It is you who have not stopped." This enigmatic statement shattered Angulimala's reality. The Buddha explained, "I have stopped causing harm to living beings. I have stopped generating the causes of suffering. You are the one who is still running, endlessly, on the wheel of violence and retribution." In that moment, the truth of the Buddha's words pierced Angulimala's heart. He saw the futility and the horror of his own life. He threw down his sword, bowed at the Buddha's feet, and asked to become a monk. Through dedicated practice, through the continuous planting of new, skillful seeds of mindfulness, study, and meditation, Angulimala completely transformed his mind. The man who was once a feared murderer became a fully enlightened saint, a being of profound peace and wisdom. His story is the ultimate testament to the fact that our past does not have to be our prison. The power of our present skillful intention is always greater than the weight of our past. Karma is not destiny. It is the ever-present opportunity for transformation. This understanding places the responsibility and the profound freedom for our happiness squarely in our own hands. We are not the helpless victims of a chaotic world. We are the gardeners of our own reality. By taking radical responsibility for our intentions, we move from a life of anxious reaction to a life of wise and graceful creation. Letting go of the outcome is what frees us to put our whole heart into the process. This understanding gives us our point of power, our present intention. But how do we weave this into a whole life? How do we build a life where skillful action becomes our natural way of being, as effortless as breathing? The Buddha didn't just point out the law of karma, he provided a complete blueprint for living it. This roadmap is a practical guide for integrating wisdom into every facet of our existence. It is known as the Noble Eightfold Path. We have discovered that our freedom lies not in controlling the vast, unpredictable ocean of life, but in the quality of our own actions, the skillful karma we create moment by moment through our intentions. This is a profound and empowering realization. It places the rudder of our life firmly in our own hands. But a rudder is useless without a map and a compass. How do we know which intentions are truly skillful? How do we navigate the immense complexities of our lives, work, our families, our inner world in a way that consistently leads us away from suffering and toward peace? A vague desire to be a good person is often not enough to guide us through the currents of our own conditioning. We need a clear, practical, and comprehensive guide. The Buddha, in his deep compassion and his genius for pragmatism, provided just such a map. This map is not a set of rigid commandments to be blindly obeyed. It is not a list of rules designed to restrict our freedom. Instead, it is a living, breathing guide to a life of flourishing, a design for well-being. It is called the Noble Eightfold Path. It is best to think of this path not as a linear sequence of steps where you must perfect one before moving to the next. Rather, imagine it as a great, flowing river with 8 distinct but interconnected currents, all moving together toward the ocean of liberation. Or think of it as a single rope woven from 8 strong strands. Each strand supports and strengthens all the others. To walk this path is to cultivate all 8 aspects of our lives simultaneously. For clarity, these 8 factors are traditionally grouped into 3 essential trainings: the training in wisdom, the training in ethical conduct, and the training in mental discipline. Let us first explore the training in wisdom. This is the map and compass of our journey. It is what gives us our sense of direction and purpose. The first strand of the path is right view, or sometimes translated as right understanding. This is the very foundation of the entire path. It is the practice of seeing reality clearly, as it is, not as we wish it to be. Right view is the direct, experiential understanding of the truths we have already been exploring. The truth that our resistance to life's flow creates a friction, a dukkha. The truth that this resistance is fueled by our thirst, our tanha, and the truth that it is possible to end this friction by walking this very path. It is the wisdom that sees impermanence, Anicca, in all things, and recognizes the selfless, process-like nature of our own being, Anatta. Right view is not a belief system to be adopted, but a clarity to be cultivated. Without a clear view of the landscape, any effort we make might lead us further into the wilderness. Flowing directly from right view is the second strand, right intention, or right thought. When we begin to see the world and ourselves more clearly, our intentions naturally begin to shift. We lose our taste for intentions that cause harm. Right intention is the conscious commitment to point our heart and mind in a wholesome direction. It is the practice of setting the rudder of our life. The Buddha specified 3 facets of right intention. First, the intention of renunciation, which is the intention to let go of our clinging, our grasping, and our addiction to control. Second is the intention of goodwill, the practice of metta, the sincere wish for the well-being and happiness of all beings, including ourselves. Third is the intention of harmlessness, the practice of karuna, or compassion, the active wish that all beings, including ourselves, be free from suffering. Right view shows us the map, and right intention sets our course. Next, we have the training in ethical conduct. This is where our inner wisdom and intention manifest in our outer actions. This training creates a peaceful and harmonious outer life, which in turn provides a stable foundation for the deeper work of training the mind. The third strand is right speech. This is the practice of using our words with conscious, compassionate skill. It means refraining from lying, from speaking words that are harsh or abusive, from speaking in a way that creates division between people, and from engaging in idle, useless chatter. Before we speak, we can learn to ask ourselves, is what I am about to say true? Is it kind? Is it necessary or beneficial? How much of the world's suffering is born from the unskillful and unmindful use of our words? The fourth strand is right action. This involves aligning our physical actions with our intention of harmlessness. Traditionally, this means refraining from killing or physically harming any living being, refraining from taking what is not freely given, and refraining from sexual misconduct. More broadly, right action is about moving through the world with a deep respect for the lives and bodies of others, acting with integrity, honesty, and gentleness. The fifth strand is right livelihood. This is the recognition that our work, where we spend so much of our waking life, must also be in harmony with our values. It is the practice of earning a living in a way that is honest and does not cause harm to others or to the world. This means avoiding professions that are based on deception or exploitation, and those that involve trading in weapons, poisons, intoxicants, or human beings. Right livelihood asks us to find a way to offer our unique gifts to the world that is beneficial for all. A way of work that we can feel proud of, that nourishes our spirit rather than depletes it. Finally, we come to the training in mental discipline. This is the heart of the inner work, the actual techniques for transforming our minds. The sixth strand is right effort. This is the wise and balanced energy that fuels our practice. It is not a forceful, striving energy, but a steady, joyful persistence. Right effort has four aspects: the effort to prevent unskillful, negative states of mind from arising, the effort to abandon any unskillful states that have already arisen, the effort to cultivate new, skillful, positive states of mind, and the effort to maintain and nurture the skillful states that are already present. It is the conscious and gentle art of tending to the garden of our mind. The seventh strand is right mindfulness, the essential skill we have already explored. It is the master tool, the quality of non-judgmental present moment awareness that makes all the other path factors possible. It is mindfulness that allows us to see our view, to know our intention, to watch our speech, and to apply the right effort. It is the steady, watchful gatekeeper of the mind, the quality of remembering to be present that illuminates the entire path. The eighth and final strand is right concentration, or right meditation. As we practice right effort and right mindfulness, the mind, which is naturally scattered like a flock of birds, begins to settle and gather. Right concentration is the practice of unifying and steadying the mind, allowing it to rest, focused and unwavering, on a single object of meditation. It is this collected, tranquil mind, like a still, clear lake, that is able to reflect the nature of reality with profound clarity. This deep calm strengthens our wisdom, our right view, and the virtuous cycle of the path continues. These 8 strands, working together, create a life of balance, integrity, and profound peace. At first glance, this path might seem like a restrictive set of rules, but this is a misunderstanding of its purpose. Think of learning to play a musical instrument, like the violin. At first, the student is constrained by what seems like a rigid structure: how to hold the bow, where to place the fingers on the strings, the tedious practice of scales and exercises. It can feel clumsy, difficult, and not at all free. A person who doesn't understand the process might think that freedom is just picking up the instrument and making any sound they want. But that is not freedom. It is just noise. True freedom, the freedom to create soaring, beautiful music that expresses the deepest emotions of the heart, comes only after the musician has completely mastered the underlying structure. The scales, the posture, the technique, once internalized, become the very vehicle of their liberation and creative expression. The Eightfold Path, then, is not a cage. It is the structure that allows us to learn the beautiful music of a free and awakened life. It provides the framework. Now, let us see how we can apply this elegant and practical structure to one of the most complex and often challenging areas of our modern lives, our relationships with other people. Of all the arenas in human life, there is none that promises greater joy, and none that delivers more profound suffering than our relationships with one another. Our connections with our partners, our children, our parents, and our closest friends are the emotional heart of our world. It is here that our deepest longings for love and belonging reside, and it is precisely for this reason that our relationships so often become the primary battlefield for our illusion of control. Having walked the elegant and holistic design of the Eightfold Path, we now bring its wisdom into this most rewarding and challenging territory. We bring our practice of mindfulness, our cultivation of compassion, and our understanding of karma directly into the heart of our connections with others. And in doing so, we learn to transform them from a source of conflict into a sanctuary of mutual freedom and growth. Why is it that these connections, which we cherish so deeply, so often become fraught with tension, misunderstanding, and pain? The reason is simple. It is in our relationships that our deep-seated fear of loss and our desperate need for security are most intensely activated. We look to another person to be our source of happiness, our rock of stability, our mirror of self-worth. And because we place this immense burden upon them, we instinctively feel we must manage and control them to ensure they continue to meet our needs. This desire for control manifests in countless subtle and overt ways, often disguised as care or love. We become the fixer, constantly pointing out our partner's flaws or trying to solve their problems, operating from the arrogant assumption that we know what is best for them. We are not seeing them as a whole person on their own journey. We are seeing them as a flawed project that needs our expert management. We become the emotional manager, trying to control what they are allowed to feel. When they are sad or angry, it makes us uncomfortable. So we say things like, "Don't be sad," or "You shouldn't be so angry," not to help them, but to alleviate our own discomfort. We are invalidating their inner weather because it is creating a storm in our own. We also become the behavioral director, subtly or not so subtly, trying to change their habits, their friends, their hobbies, or even their way of thinking, so that they better align with our own preferences and create a more predictable and pleasing environment for us. At the root of this entire agenda of control is our own insecurity, fueled by the delusion of a separate, needy self. We see our partner not as a sovereign being, but as a critical extension of our own ego project. When they succeed, I feel successful. When they fail, or behave in a way I disapprove of, I feel a sense of shame or failure. Their unpredictable nature threatens my sense of stability. Their freedom feels like a danger to my security. And so, we begin to subtly tighten the chains of expectation and demand. We are no longer truly loving a whole, separate, mysterious human being. We are attempting to train, mold, and domesticate them into a reliable accessory for our own life. This is not love. It is a form of violence, and it is the hidden source of so much of the resentment, the frustration, and the heartbreaking distance that poisons our most intimate connections. The path of wisdom offers us a radically different vision of love. True love, from this perspective, is not about possession, acquisition, or control. It is the sincere and active wish for another being to be happy and to be free. And it must include the profound wisdom to understand that their path to happiness and freedom may be very different from the one we would choose for them. This requires us to let go of our most cherished fantasies and expectations, and to learn to love what is, rather than what we wish would be. It means seeing our loved ones not as static objects to be owned, but as they truly are, flowing, ever-changing rivers. Just like you, they have their own currents of thought, their own eddies of emotion, their own histories that have shaped their course. To love them is to love the river itself. It means appreciating the beauty of their peaceful, sunlit stretches, while also having the courage and compassion to sit with them through their turbulent rapids and their murky depths, without demanding that they be anything other than what they are in that moment. Loving a river means you cannot dam it, you cannot straighten it, and you cannot predict its course. You can only learn to appreciate its unique, wild, and untamable beauty. How do we practice this? We begin by transforming the way we communicate, using the tools of the Eightfold Path. We practice deep listening, which is an expression of right mindfulness. Deep listening is not the passive act of waiting for your turn to speak. It is not listening with the intent to find flaws in the other person's logic, or to formulate your brilliant rebuttal. That is listening for the purpose of winning. Deep listening is the active, engaged offering of your full, non-judgmental presence. It is listening with the sole intention of understanding. It is being the calm, open sky for the weather of their words and feelings. When you offer someone this quality of attention, you are giving them one of the greatest gifts one human being can offer another. You are giving them the space to be seen, to be heard, and to be real. The counterpart to this is the practice of loving speech, an expression of right speech. It is the practice of speaking our own truth, but always filtering it through the gate of kindness. It is learning to communicate our own feelings, needs, and boundaries clearly and gently, without resorting to the weapons of blame, accusation, or demand. This often involves a simple but profound shift in language, from you statements to I statements. Instead of saying, "You are so inconsiderate, you never listen to me," which is an attack that will only provoke defensiveness, we can learn to say, "When my words are not heard, I feel sad and unimportant." The first is an act of war. The second is a vulnerable, honest expression of our own heart, which invites connection and understanding. There is a beautiful parable that illustrates this choice between love as control and love as freedom. Imagine two young trees, two beautiful saplings, planted too close together in a forest. As they begin to grow, their roots, searching for nourishment in the soil, start to intertwine and compete. Their branches, reaching for the life-giving sun, begin to cross and block each other's light. The stronger tree might temporarily thrive by stealing the resources of the weaker one, but ultimately, both are harmed. They become stunted, twisted, and unhealthy, never reaching their full, majestic potential. They live in a state of constant, silent, underground conflict. This is the nature of a relationship based on clinging, codependence, and the desire for control. Now, imagine two other saplings planted a respectful distance apart. They each have ample space for their roots to spread deep into the earth, to find their own sources of water and nourishment. They each have the space to grow their branches wide and high, receiving the full warmth and light of the sun. As these two trees grow tall, strong, and sovereign, their outermost branches may eventually begin to touch. Their leaves may rustle together in the wind. On a hot day, one might offer a bit of shade to the other. In a great storm, their combined presence might help to break the force of the wind for both. They stand together, but not in each other's shadow. They are two majestic, whole, and independent beings who create a shared space of shelter and beauty. This is the model for love as a practice of freedom. It is about honoring and protecting the sacred space that another person needs to become themselves. It is trusting that if we focus on our own healthy growth and grant others the grace and space to do the same, a natural, supportive, and life-giving connection can flourish, one that strengthens both individuals without diminishing either one. This does not mean a life free of conflict. When two rivers flow side by side, their currents will inevitably interact, creating turbulence and eddies. Letting go of control does not mean the end of disagreement. It means we learn to navigate disagreement with a new kind of wisdom. When conflict arises, our practice gives us a clear path. First, we pause. This is right mindfulness. Instead of instantly reacting with our habitual anger or defensiveness, we take a breath. We notice the first arrow of the disagreement, and we watch with compassion as the second arrow of our own emotional reaction arises within us. Second, we clarify our intention. This is right intention. We ask ourselves, what is my true goal here? Is it to win this argument, to punish my partner, to prove that I am right? Or is it to understand their suffering and to find a way forward that honors both of us? We consciously set an intention for goodwill and harmlessness. Third, we practice self-compassion. We acknowledge our own pain. This is really hard. I am feeling hurt and defensive right now. We might place a hand on our heart. This simple act grounds us and reduces our reactivity. Fourth, we listen deeply. We invite the other person to share their experience, their weather, and we offer them the sky of our silent, open attention. We listen to understand their pain, not just to refute their points. Fifth, we speak skillfully. This is right speech. When it is our time to speak, we use I statements. We own our feelings. We avoid blame. And finally, we let go of the outcome. We cannot force a resolution. We cannot control how the other person will respond. All we can do is show up to the challenging process with as much integrity, wisdom, and love as we can muster. The goal is not to win the conflict, but to use the conflict as a sacred practice for deepening our understanding of ourselves, of our partner, and of the art of love itself. Our relationships, then, become the ultimate laboratory for our spiritual journey. They are where our practice gets real. They constantly challenge our ego and reveal our attachments. By consciously replacing the habit of control with the practices of acceptance, deep listening, loving speech, and boundless compassion, we can transform these laboratories from battlefields into sanctuaries. Love ceases to be something we desperately seek and cling to, and becomes something we consciously and generously cultivate, a shared path of walking each other home to the freedom that is our birthright. This practice of letting go within our most intimate connections teaches us invaluable lessons about trust and non-attachment. Now, let us see how we can carry this same expansive wisdom out of our homes and into the wider, often more competitive, world of our work, our goals, and our worldly ambitions. Having explored the delicate art of bringing freedom and acceptance into our most intimate relationships, we now turn our attention from the private sanctuary of the heart to the public square of our lives, our work, our goals, and our worldly ambitions. For many of us, this is the domain where the illusion of control reigns supreme. We are taught from a young age that success is the result of relentless drive, unwavering focus, and an almost obsessive dedication to achieving a goal. Our culture glorifies the grind, the hustle, the idea that to be truly successful, you must be deeply, passionately, and unshakably attached to the outcome. We are told that this attachment is the very engine of achievement. But the wisdom of this path invites us to look closer, to investigate the hidden cost of this philosophy. When we look honestly, we see that this glorification of attachment is the direct cause of so much of the stress, the burnout, and the pervasive anxiety that haunt our professional lives. We tie our sense of self-worth so tightly to our external achievements that every project becomes a referendum on our value as a human being. We live in a state of perpetual, low-grade fear, the fear of failure, the fear of not measuring up, the fear of being seen as ordinary. The finish line is always moving. We get the promotion, and for a fleeting moment, there is relief, but it is immediately replaced by the anxiety of needing to succeed in the new role. We reach a financial goal, and we are immediately consumed by the fear of losing it. This is the saltwater thirst applied to our careers. It is an unquenchable, exhausting, and ultimately joyless way to live. We are so focused on the distant peak of the mountain that we fail to notice the beautiful flowers growing at our feet, and we fail to enjoy the simple, profound satisfaction of the climb itself. The Buddhist path offers a revolutionary and far more sustainable alternative, a middle way between the extremes of lazy, apathetic passivity and frantic, anxious striving. This alternative is found in the practice of right effort, one of the strands of the Noble Eightfold Path. Right effort is not about a lack of effort. It is about a skillful effort. It is a balanced, intelligent, and joyful energy that is both persistent and relaxed. It is the energy of the wise farmer, not the anxious tyrant of the field. This skillful effort has 4 aspects that we can apply directly to our work. First, we make the effort to prevent unwholesome states, like procrastination or envy, from taking root in our minds. Second, if unwholesome states like stress or frustration have already arisen, we make the effort to gently abandon them, to let them go. Third, we make the effort to actively cultivate wholesome, supportive states, like concentration, creativity, curiosity, and a spirit of collaboration. And fourth, we make the effort to maintain these positive states, to nurture them so they become the steady foundation of our working life. When we operate from this place of right effort, our experience of work transforms. It ceases to be a tense, draining struggle and begins to feel more like a state of flow. We are deeply engaged, we are focused, we are energized, but we are also relaxed and open. The work feels as if it is flowing through us, rather than being violently forced by us. The desperate, grasping ego gets out of the way, and a more intuitive, creative intelligence is allowed to emerge. This is the state where we do our best work, and it is a state that is deeply enjoyable and nourishing in and of itself. There is a classic Zen story that perfectly illustrates this shift in focus from the outcome to the process. Imagine a novice archer standing before a target. He is completely obsessed with hitting the bullseye. His entire sense of accomplishment for the day rests on this single outcome. As he draws the bow, his shoulders are tense, his jaw is clenched, and his mind is a chaotic storm of thoughts. I have to hit it. Everyone is watching me. What if I miss? I'll look like a fool. This very anxiety, this desperate clinging to the result, makes his hands tremble. His breath is shallow and unsteady. His release is jerky. The arrow flies, but it misses the mark. He is consumed by frustration and self-criticism. Now, imagine a master archer. Her aim is also to hit the target, but her entire focus, her entire world, is in the process, not the outcome. As she takes her stance, her attention is on the feeling of the solid earth beneath her feet. As she raises the bow, she feels the strength in her arms and the balance in her posture. As she draws the string back, her focus is on the steady, calm rhythm of her own breath. Her mind is not in the future, on the target. Her mind is right here, right now, completely absorbed in the sensory experience of the action. She is one with the bow, the arrow, the breath. The release of the string is not a moment of anxious hope. It is simply the natural, effortless culmination of a perfectly executed and harmonious process. The arrow flies true, and it strikes the center of the target. For the master archer, hitting the bullseye is not the goal. It is the inevitable and unsurprising consequence of a perfect process. This is the secret to bringing peace into our ambition. We must learn to fall in love with the process, not just the prize. We must learn to find our joy and satisfaction, not in the future moment of victory, but in the dignity and quality of our present moment effort. This requires a profound reframing of our ideas of success and failure. As long as our self-worth is fused with our external achievements, we will live as hostages to fortune. The practice of letting go in our work is the practice of consciously uncoupling our inherent value as a person from our performance. You are worthy of love and respect whether your business succeeds or fails, whether you get the promotion or not. Your true worth is unconditional. With this understanding, failure is no longer a catastrophe. In the clinging mindset, failure is a damning verdict on our capabilities and our worth. In the letting go mindset, failure is simply information. It is data. It is the universe providing feedback, saying, "This particular approach did not produce the desired result. It's time to learn, to adapt, to pivot." There is no shame in it, only valuable learning. It is an opportunity to grow wiser, more flexible, and more resilient. And this, in turn, allows us to redefine success. True success is not measured by a title, a salary, or a trophy. True success is an internal quality of being. It is finishing a day of work, regardless of the external results, knowing that you showed up fully, knowing that you acted with integrity, you treated others with kindness, you faced challenges with a calm mind, and you offered the world your most mindful and heartfelt effort. Success becomes something no one can ever take away from you. This path offers us a way to be ambitious without being anxious, to be effective without being exhausted, to be deeply engaged in our work without being consumed by it. We learn to work with the joyful diligence of the master archer, focusing all our energy and love on the quality of the process. We learn to strive with a light heart and to rest easy in the profound wisdom that we can only ever control our own actions, not their ultimate results. This practice of finding freedom in our daily efforts, of letting go of our attachment to success and our fear of failure, prepares us to face the many small deaths that life presents, the end of projects, the changing of careers, the fading of our goals. And in doing so, it trains us, with each passing day, to face the ultimate letting go, the one great, unavoidable event that our entire culture of control is designed to deny and to fear: our own mortality. We have practiced the art of letting go in the intimate sphere of our relationships and in the public square of our work and ambitions. We have learned to release our grip on outcomes, to find peace in the process, and to meet failure with the grace of a wise student. But beneath all these smaller projects of control, beneath the desire to manage our careers and our loved ones, lies one great, foundational fear. It is the silent, unacknowledged engine that drives our most desperate attempts to build fortresses of security and permanence in a world of constant change. We must now turn the gentle light of our awareness toward this deepest fear of all, the fear of death. In our modern culture, we have become experts at the denial of death. We see it not as a natural and inevitable part of life's cycle, but as a kind of medical failure, a technical problem to be solved, an enemy to be fought and defeated. We hide the dying away in hospitals and institutions, out of sight and out of mind. We speak of it in hushed tones and euphemisms. We worship at the altar of youth, pouring billions of dollars into creams, procedures, and potions that promise to hold back the tide of our own biology. This deep cultural denial creates a powerful, unconscious anxiety, and much of our life's activity is an elaborate strategy to soothe this anxiety. Why do we frantically accumulate wealth far beyond our actual needs? In part, it is to build a fortress of security against the ultimate insecurity of our own impermanence. Why do we obsess over status, fame, or legacy? It is a deep-seated desire to create a version of ourselves that will not dissolve, a name that will live on after the body is gone. Our desperate need to control our lives, to make them safe, predictable, and permanent, is fundamentally rooted in this terror of our own ultimate letting go. The Buddhist path, with its characteristic honesty and pragmatism, invites us to do the opposite of what our culture teaches. Instead of denying death, we are encouraged to gently, mindfully, turn toward it. There is a formal practice for this, called maranasati, which means death awareness, or the recollection of death. This is not a morbid or depressing practice designed to make us fearful. It is a life-affirming practice designed to make us wise. Its purpose is not to hasten our death, but to awaken us to the vibrant, precious, and fleeting reality of our life, right now. Imagine you are told you are going on a beautiful vacation that will last for only 1 week. Because you know your time is limited, you cherish every moment. You don't waste a single day on petty arguments or trivial concerns. You savor every sunset, every meal, every conversation. You live with a heightened sense of appreciation and presence. The practice of maranasati does this for our entire life. By remembering that our life is a temporary gift, not a permanent possession, we learn not to waste it. When we hold the reality of our own death, not as a frightening thought, but as a simple, sober truth, it acts as a powerful, clarifying filter for our choices. The small things that we waste so much of our life energy on, the petty grudges, the anxieties about what other people think of us, the endless quest for more possessions, are revealed in their true, insignificant proportion. The contemplation of death asks us the most important question of all. Knowing that my time here is precious and finite, is this how I want to be spending my energy? Is this argument truly worth a piece of my irreplaceable life? Is this worry worthy of the gift of my consciousness? This question has the power to instantly recalibrate our priorities. It shifts our focus away from the trivial and toward what truly matters: the quality of our love, the depth of our connection with others, the cultivation of our own inner peace, and the kindness we are able to offer the world. It awakens a sense of gentle urgency, an inspiration to live each day with integrity and purpose. There is a simple and profound image from nature that teaches us the art of this ultimate letting go. Consider a single leaf on a great tree. In the spring, it unfurled, vibrant and green, a perfect expression of new life. Throughout the long, warm days of summer, it worked tirelessly, turning sunlight into energy, dancing in the breeze, and nourishing the tree that was its home. It lived its life fully, As autumn approaches, its work is done. The leaf does not cling to the branch in terror, trying to resist the changing of the seasons. It does not rage against the inevitable. Instead, there is a natural and graceful process of release. The vibrant green gives way to a brilliant gold, or a fiery crimson, a final, beautiful, and courageous expression of its being. And then, at exactly the right moment, when the winds beckon, it lets go. Without a struggle, without resistance, it releases its hold and begins its final journey. And this journey is not a terrifying fall into oblivion. The leaf drifts, it dances, it spirals on the currents of the air, and it settles with a quiet rustle upon the forest floor. There, amongst its countless brothers and sisters, it does not truly die. It begins a process of transformation. It returns to the earth, decomposing, becoming the rich, dark soil that will, in turn, nourish the roots of the great tree, providing the energy for a new generation of leaves to be born the following spring. It is not an end. It is a return to the whole. It is a beautiful, necessary, and peaceful dissolution. We too are like this leaf. Our life is a season on the great tree of existence. To fight against our own autumn is to live in disharmony with the fundamental laws of nature. We too can learn to let go with this same grace and trust, understanding that we are part of a process far vaster and more mysterious than our small, separate selves. This understanding connects directly to the liberating insight of Anatta, or not self. The terror of death is fundamentally the ego's terror of its own annihilation. We are afraid of death because we believe that there is a solid, continuous I that will be destroyed. But as we have seen, when we look for this solid self, it cannot be found. What we call a self is a temporary coming together of the 5 aggregates: the physical body, the flow of feelings, the stream of perceptions, the cascade of mental formations, and the flickering of consciousness. From this perspective, what actually happens at death? The physical form, which was always changing, simply dissolves back into the elements from which it was borrowed, and the mental processes, which were dependent on the physical brain and sense organs, cease to arise in that particular configuration. The wave, which was never separate from the ocean, simply returns to the ocean. If there was no permanent thing to be found during life, what thing is there to be destroyed at death? The fear of death is the fear of losing something that we never truly had in the first place. This insight, when it moves from an intellectual idea to a deep, felt understanding, does not lead to carelessness or nihilism. On the contrary, it makes us cherish this precious, temporary, human life even more. But it can release us from the deep, existential dread that is the hidden source of so much of our anxiety. By making peace with the reality of our own impermanence, we are freed from the deepest and most powerful root of our need to control the world. It is the ultimate letting go. It is not a practice for dying. It is a practice for waking up right now to the life that is pulsing through us in this very moment. When we make peace with this final letting go, when the fear of endings loses its power over us, something remarkable begins to happen. The frantic need to plan, to secure, and to control every moment of our lives starts to soften. And in the spaciousness that this release creates, we discover the unexpected joy and simple beauty of the unplanned moment. Having walked to the edge of the great mystery, having made a gentle peace with the ultimate letting go of death, a profound and unexpected spaciousness begins to open up in our lives. The deep, existential terror that silently fueled our need for control has softened its grip. And as this fear recedes, so too does the frantic, lifelong project of trying to pave over every moment of our future with a rigid, concrete plan, we begin to see that our obsession with planning, with scheduling, with knowing exactly what will happen next, was not a sign of our strength, but a symptom of our fear. In this newfound spaciousness, we are invited to discover one of the most sublime fruits of the spiritual path, the simple, unadorned, and breathtaking beauty of the unplanned moment. We live in a culture that worships the plan. Our lives are often meticulously structured, a series of checklists, calendar appointments, and strategic goals. We have itineraries for our work days, our workouts, our meals, and even our vacations, which are meant to be a time of rest, are often scheduled down to the minute. On the surface, this appears to be the very definition of a responsible and effective life. But if we look closer, with the light of mindfulness, we can see the hidden cost of this tyranny of the itinerary. When we live exclusively by a plan, we cease to experience our lives directly. Instead, we experience them through the distorting filter of our own expectations. We are not truly in the museum, delighting in a surprising painting. We are mentally checking the museum off our list of things to do. We are not truly with our friend, listening with an open heart. We are fitting them into a 1-hour slot before our next scheduled obligation. We end up living a kind of second-hand life, a life in which we are constantly comparing the messy, unpredictable reality of the present moment to the clean, ordered fiction of our plan. We are not tasting the meal. We are judging whether it lives up to our expectations. We are not enjoying the walk. We are tracking our steps and our pace. We are living a representation of our life, not the living, breathing, vibrant thing itself. This addiction to the plan makes us brittle and fragile. When reality inevitably deviates from our script, as it always does, we experience immense stress. A traffic jam is not just a delay, it is a personal affront, a catastrophic failure of our perfectly managed timeline. An unexpected phone call from a friend in need is not seen as an opportunity for connection, but as an inconvenient interruption of our productive workflow. We become closed off to the organic, spontaneous, and often magical unfolding of life. Our days become a grim march, from one completed task to the next, and we lose our capacity for wonder, for surprise, for awe. We become the anxious architects of a sterile and predictable world, and we forget how to be the curious explorers of the wild and beautiful one that is actually here. The antidote to this self-imposed prison is the cultivation of what in the Zen tradition is called shoshin, or beginner's mind. Beginner's mind is the quality of awareness that is empty of preconceived notions, free from the arrogance of expertise, and filled with a spacious and playful curiosity. The mind of the expert is often closed. It believes it already knows the answers. It filters every new experience through the grid of its past knowledge. The mind of the beginner, however, is wide open. It is ready for anything. It is willing to be surprised. It is not afraid to say, "I don't know," which is one of the most powerful and liberating phrases a human being can utter. We can practice cultivating this beginner's mind in very simple ways. We can take a walk with no destination in mind, simply letting our feet and our curiosity lead us. We can sit in a park and just watch the world go by, without the need for a phone, a book, or any form of distraction. We can listen to a piece of music as if we have never heard it before, letting the sounds wash over us without needing to label or analyze them. The goal of these small practices is to gently let go of our agenda, to release the relentless need to be productive, entertained, or in control, and to simply allow our senses to receive the gift of the world directly. When we begin to do this, a quiet miracle occurs. The world, which may have grown dull and grey through the film of our habitual thinking, begins to come alive again with vibrant color. We start to notice things we have been blind to for years. The impossibly intricate pattern of a spider's web, glistening with morning dew, the complex symphony of sounds in a forest, the way the late afternoon light transforms a simple brick wall into a work of art, the rich, earthy smell of the ground after a rain shower. This is not some esoteric, mystical state. This is our birthright. This is the world as it actually is, when seen through a mind that has momentarily set down its heavy burden of planning and judging. The magic of life is not hidden. It is here, right now, in the ordinary, waiting for us to become present enough to perceive it. It is in this state of open, unplanned presence that we create the conditions for serendipity to arise. It is when we are not rushing to our next appointment that we have the time to strike up a conversation with a stranger in a coffee shop, a conversation that might lead to a new friendship or a new opportunity. It is when we take a different, unplanned route home from work that we discover a hidden park or a beautiful old building we never knew existed. By releasing our tight grip on the tiller of our life, we allow the gentle, intelligent currents of life itself to guide us toward shores we never could have imagined. The freedom born from this practice is not the freedom of chaos or incompetence. It is the freedom of the master jazz musician. Imagine a brilliant classical pianist. They can play a complex Beethoven sonata with flawless technique and deep feeling. They are perfectly executing a magnificent plan laid out by the composer centuries ago. This is a beautiful art form, the perfection of a known and noble structure. Now, imagine a jazz quartet taking the stage. They might have only the barest of plans, a simple chord progression. The song begins, and the saxophone player steps forward, playing a lyrical, soulful melody that has just been born in that moment. The pianist, who did not know what the saxophonist would play, listens with her entire being and responds, not by thinking, but by feeling, her fingers dancing across the keys, creating a cascade of chords that deepens and harmonizes with the melody. The drummer, hearing this interplay, shifts the rhythm subtly, adding a new layer of energy. The bassist feels this shift and responds with a new, walking bass line that locks everyone into a shared groove. This is the art of improvisation. It is not random noise. It is a profound form of freedom that is built upon a foundation of immense skill. Each musician has practiced their scales, their chords, their rhythms for thousands of hours. They have mastered the eightfold path of their craft. And because their skill is so deeply embodied, they no longer need to think about it. They can trust their own ability, and even more importantly, they can trust each other. They are engaged in an act of deep, selfless listening. They are letting go of their individual egos to serve something larger, the music, the creative energy of the present moment. They are co-creating something utterly new, alive, and unrepeatable, a piece of beauty that has never existed before and will never exist again. This is our model for a life of enlightened spontaneity. It is not about being unprepared. It is about practicing the skills of mindfulness, wisdom, and compassion so diligently that we can finally trust ourselves enough to let go of the script. We learn to listen deeply to the music of the present moment, to the people and situations that arise, and to respond from a place of authenticity, creativity, and love. Our life itself becomes a beautiful, unrepeatable improvisation. This way of being is infused with a quality of lightness and play. In some spiritual traditions, this is known by the Sanskrit word lila, which can be translated as divine play. It is the idea that at its deepest level, the universe is not a grim, serious project, but a joyful, creative, and spontaneous dance. By letting go of our own grim seriousness, we align ourselves with this cosmic playfulness. We learn to laugh at ourselves more, to take our own ego projects less seriously. We approach our tasks not as heavy duties to be endured, but as interesting games to be played. And it is from this relaxed, open, and playful state of mind that our own creativity is unleashed. A mind that is tense, anxious, and controlling can only repeat old patterns. A mind that is open, relaxed, and playful is the fertile ground from which new ideas and novel solutions naturally spring forth. The heavy burden of being the manager of my life is replaced by the simple joy of being a participant in the play of life. We stop being the grim architect, trying to force the world to conform to our rigid blueprint, and we become the curious and delighted explorer, thrilled by the discoveries that lie around every unplanned corner. This release from the fear of death and the illusion of control does not lead to a drab, passive, or meaningless existence. It leads to its exact opposite, a life that is more vibrant, more creative, more joyful, and more deeply connected to the ever-present magic of the here and now. We learn to trust the flow, and in that trust, we discover a freedom and a beauty we never could have planned for. This state of playful presence, of open, non-striving awareness, is not only the source of great joy, it is also the prerequisite for true rest. The mind that is no longer fighting the present moment, the mind that is not anxiously rehearsing the future, is a mind that can finally, deeply, and completely relax. It is a mind that can sleep. We have discovered the joy of the unplanned moment, the creative, playful lightness that arises when we release our rigid agendas and open ourselves to the great improvisation of life. This state of open, non-striving awareness is not only a source of profound creativity and joy, it is also the direct pathway to one of our deepest and most neglected human needs, the need for true and restorative rest. For so many of us in the modern world, the night is not a time of peaceful sanctuary, but a private battleground. We may be physically exhausted from the day's labors, but the mind refuses to stand down. It continues to race, to plan, to worry, to analyze. We lie in the dark, and the mind replays the day's conversations, searching for what we should have said differently. It rehearses tomorrow's challenges, anticipating every possible negative outcome. It churns with anxieties, grievances, and an endless to-do list. This common experience of insomnia is not merely a medical or psychological issue. It is, at its heart, a spiritual one. The mind that cannot sleep is the mind that has not yet learned how to let go of control. It is the mind of the general manager of the universe, still on the clock, believing that if it stops its vigilant supervision for even a moment, the entire enterprise of our life will collapse. The ego, the sense of a separate, controlling self, sees sleep as a dangerous surrender, a terrifying loss of control, and so it fights to stay awake. It fights to stay on guard, completely unaware that this very fight is the source of its own exhaustion and the very barrier to the peace it so desperately craves. We cannot force ourselves to sleep. The effort to fall asleep is just another form of control, another tensing of the mind that only creates more wakefulness. The path to deep rest is not through effort, but through its opposite. It is through the gentle, courageous, and profound act of surrender. The most skillful way to practice this surrender is to gently shift our attention out of the chaotic, storytelling, thinking mind and into the quiet, honest, present moment reality of the physical body. We will do this through a practice known as the body scan, a form of mindfulness meditation designed to release stored tension, and calm the nervous system. There is nothing to achieve here. The only intention is to be present and to gently give your body permission to do what it already knows how to do, which is to rest. So, as you prepare for sleep, lying comfortably in your bed, allow your body to be heavy. Feel the points of contact between your body and the mattress beneath you. And for a moment, just appreciate the feeling of being supported. You do not have to hold yourself up. You can let go and allow yourself to be held. Now, bring your attention, like a soft, warm light, all the way down to the toes of your left foot. You don't need to wiggle them or do anything at all. Simply feel whatever sensations are present. Perhaps you feel warmth or coolness or a slight tingling. Perhaps you feel nothing at all. Whatever is there, just let it be there. As you breathe out, imagine that your breath could travel all the way down to your toes, and as it leaves, it carries with it any tension held there. Give your toes permission to soften, to let go. Now, allow your awareness to expand, to include the sole of your left foot, the heel, and the top of the foot. Just feeling, just noticing. On the out-breath, inviting this entire foot to release, to become heavy and relaxed. Gently, allow this warm awareness to travel up to your left ankle, your shin, and your calf muscle. This is a part of the body that works hard for us all day. Notice any tightness or tension held here, and with a soft, gentle out-breath, simply invite it to soften. Let it go. Continue this journey up to your left knee and your entire left thigh, from the front to the back, just feeling the simple, physical sensations, and with each out-breath, giving this entire leg permission to be completely and deeply at rest. Now, shift your attention over to the toes of your right foot and begin the same gentle journey, noticing the toes, the foot, the ankle, the calf, and the thigh, bringing a kind, allowing awareness to each part, and with the out-breath, inviting each part to release its holding, to surrender its weight fully to the support of the bed. Now, bring your awareness to your pelvic area, your hips, and your buttocks, an area where we often hold deep, unconscious tension. Just let your awareness rest there, and with a long, slow out-breath, invite this entire region to soften and release. Let your awareness travel up into your lower back, and then your upper back, feeling the support of the mattress. Let your shoulders, which carry so much of our daily burden, be heavy. Give them permission to drop, to melt away from your ears. Allow this feeling of release to flow down both of your arms, through your elbows, your forearms, your wrists, your hands, and all the way to the tips of your fingers. Let your arms be heavy, limp, and completely at rest. Bring a gentle awareness to your neck and then to your face. Notice the small muscles around your jaw, your mouth, your eyes, and your forehead. With a soft out-breath, invite all these muscles to go slack, to be smooth and at ease. Finally, allow your awareness to rest on your entire body, from the tips of your toes to the top of your head, feeling it as a single field of sensation, breathing in and breathing out, heavy, soft, and deeply at rest. What we are doing in this practice is more than just relaxing the body. We are learning, on a deep somatic level, how to trust. Deep, restful sleep is not something we can achieve through effort. It is something that arrives when we surrender. It is, at its very core, a profound act of trust. We are trusting that our body can continue its wise and miraculous work of breathing, circulating blood, and healing itself, all without our anxious, conscious supervision. We are trusting that the world can, in fact, continue to turn for a few hours, without our needing to worry about it. And we are trusting that the problems and challenges of tomorrow will be there to be met tomorrow, and that we will be far better equipped to meet them after we have allowed ourselves this sacred period of renewal. To see this principle in its purest form, simply observe a cat when it sleeps. A cat is a master of the art of letting go. Watch how its body becomes completely limp, how its paws are soft, how its belly is exposed and undefended. It is a perfect picture of total physical and mental surrender. The cat is not lying there worrying about where its next meal is coming from. It is not replaying a past conflict with another animal. It is completely, utterly, and shamelessly surrendered to the present moment of rest. It embodies a simple, profound trust in the flow of life. We can learn from this wisdom. We can give ourselves permission for the hours of the night to be this undefended, this trusting, this deeply at rest. This is not a luxury or a sign of laziness. It is a vital and skillful practice. It is the necessary fallow period for the garden of our mind. To sleep well in the flow of life means learning to align ourselves with this natural rhythm of engagement and surrender. We learn to act with mindful effort during the day, and we learn to let go with complete trust at night. The path to deep sleep, therefore, is not found in a better sleeping pill or a new technique for controlling the mind. It is found in the gentle, courageous, and repeated practice of surrender. By learning to trust life, we finally give our minds permission to come home to their own natural state of peace. This deep, trusting rest becomes a sanctuary we can return to each night. But what about during the day? How can we cultivate a similar sense of sanctuary and safety within ourselves? A place of refuge that can hold us even amidst the inevitable storms of our waking life. This is the practice of building an inner shelter. We have found a sanctuary of rest in the deep, trusting surrender of the night. This practice of letting go gives us a taste of what true peace feels like, but a peace that is only available when our eyes are closed and the world is asleep is a fragile and incomplete peace. The path of wisdom does not ask us to retreat from the world to find calm. It teaches us how to carry that sense of sanctuary with us into the daylight hours, into our workplaces, into our families, and into the very midst of life's inevitable challenges. It teaches us how to build an inner shelter. Our ordinary strategy for finding security in the world is to build external shelters. We think that if we can just build a strong enough fortress of financial wealth, we will be safe. We believe that if we can construct the perfect relationship, we will find a permanent refuge in another person's love. We try to build a shelter of professional status and reputation, hoping that the approval and respect of others will protect us from criticism and failure. We work tirelessly to maintain the shelter of our physical health, believing that if we can just control our bodies, we can hold back the forces of decay and death. These external shelters can be beautiful. They can provide us with temporary comfort, pleasure, and a sense of stability, but they are all, without exception, like sandcastles built on the beach. We pour immense effort into their construction, decorating them with our hopes and dreams. And yet, we live in a constant, low-grade state of anxiety because we know, deep down, that the tide of impermanence is always coming in. The waves of change and economic downturn, a shift in a relationship, a corporate restructuring, an unexpected illness will eventually arrive, and our beautiful sandcastles will be washed away. To place our ultimate trust for safety and happiness in anything external and conditional is to sentence ourselves to a life of perpetual insecurity. The Buddha taught, with profound clarity, that the only reliable shelter, the only true and lasting refuge, cannot be found in the shifting sands of the outer world. It must be built within the landscape of our own heart and mind. Traditionally, this is known as taking refuge in the three jewels. We can understand these three jewels not as articles of religious faith, but as three essential and interconnected qualities of our own awakened consciousness. The first refuge is the refuge of wisdom. This is sometimes called taking refuge in the Buddha, but this does not mean taking refuge in a historical person. It means taking refuge in the potential for enlightenment, for clear seeing, that exists within every one of us. It is the commitment to wake up from the dream of our own confusion. It is trusting in our own capacity to see reality as it truly is, impermanent, interconnected, and selfless. This wisdom acts as the reliable map and compass within our shelter. When the storms of life are raging and we are tossed by the waves of confusion and fear, our wisdom is the North Star that reminds us of the true nature of things, allowing us to navigate with clarity and confidence. The second refuge is the refuge of compassion. This is often called taking refuge in the Dharma, which means the truth or the path. It is the practice of aligning our lives with the truth of the way things are. It is trusting in the natural law of karma, the understanding that skillful, compassionate actions naturally lead to peace, while unskillful, harmful actions naturally lead to suffering. And at its heart, taking refuge in the Dharma is taking refuge in the boundless power of a kind and loving heart. If wisdom is the compass, compassion is the warmth within the shelter. It is the steady fire that keeps our hearts from growing cold and bitter in the face of life's hardships. It is the medicine we apply to our own wounds and the gentle hand we extend to others. It is the unshakable commitment to harmlessness and goodwill. The third refuge is the refuge of stillness. This is known as taking refuge in the Sangha. On one level, this means the community of fellow travelers on the path, whose friendship and support can be a great source of strength. But on a deeper, internal level, it means taking refuge in the qualities of mind that we ourselves cultivate through practice. It is taking refuge in our own mindfulness and concentration. It is the calm, steady, and collected mind that we have trained through meditation. This stillness is the solid foundation of our inner shelter. It is the firm ground of present moment awareness that we can always return to, no matter how fiercely the winds of thought and emotion are blowing outside. It is the quiet, unshakable center of our being. Wisdom gives us clarity, compassion gives us warmth, and stillness gives us stability. These are the three pillars of our inner home. There is a simple and powerful parable for this practice. Think of the turtle. The turtle moves slowly through a world that is often filled with danger and predators. It is not the strongest, nor the fastest of creatures. When a great threat appears, a soaring eagle or a powerful jaguar, the turtle does not attempt to fight the external world. It knows it cannot win such a battle. It does not try to outrun the danger. Instead, its strategy is one of supreme wisdom and efficiency. It simply, without fuss, withdraws its vulnerable parts, its head, its legs, its tail into the safety of its own shell. The shell is not something the turtle has to find. It is a part of its own being. It is an inner fortress that it carries with it, everywhere it goes. Safe within its own innate refuge, it can wait with great patience until the external danger has passed. We must learn to be like this turtle. The world will always present threats to our ego and our peace of mind. Criticism, disappointment, loss, failure. Our practice is not to try and wage war against the entire world. It is to diligently build our own inner shell, our own portable refuge. This shell is constructed, day by day, breath by breath, from the hard-won qualities of our practice. The wisdom that sees clearly is its impenetrable outer layer. The compassion that keeps our hearts soft is its warm inner lining. And the calm, steady presence of mindfulness is the gravitational force that holds it all together. When the predators of life appear in the form of a harsh word, a painful memory, or a surge of fear, we can learn to withdraw our frantic, scattered attention from the external drama and take refuge in the unshakable safety of our own well-trained heart. When we begin to live from this inner shelter, a profound shift occurs in our lives. Our emotional center of gravity moves from the volatile outside world to the stable inner world. We become less needy, less desperate for the praise of others, less terrified of their criticism. We are no longer beggars, seeking scraps of security from a world that can never permanently provide it. We discover that we are already whole, that we carry our own home within us. This is the source of true resilience. Resilience is not the rigid strength that never bends. It is the flexible strength that knows how to withdraw, how to heal, and how to gather its resources. It is the ability to be knocked down by life and to know that we have a safe place to return to, a place where we can tend to our wounds and regain our footing. This practice cultivates a quiet, understated fearlessness. We can participate more fully and courageously in the adventure of life because we know that our ultimate security, our true home, does not depend on the outcome of any particular event. When we are firmly established in this inner refuge, when our peace is no longer held hostage by life needing to be a certain way, a remarkable quality of heart begins to blossom. It is a deep, unshakable balance in the face of life's inevitable ups and downs, the gains and the losses, the praise and the blame. This sublime quality is known as equanimity. Having built and taken refuge in the deep, quiet sanctuary of our own inner shelter, we find ourselves standing on solid ground. Even when the world outside is shaking, we have cultivated a peace that is not dependent on our eyes being closed, a safety that we can carry with us into the marketplace and the boardroom, into our families and into our solitude. From this place of profound inner stability, we are now able to nurture one of the most sublime, refined, and liberating qualities of the awakened heart. It is the crowning jewel of our practice, a quality known in the Pali language as upekkha, or equanimity. To understand the preciousness of equanimity, we must first look honestly at our default state, the ordinary condition of the untrained mind. For most of us, our inner life is like a small boat tossed about on a vast and stormy ocean. We are in a constant state of reaction. When the winds are favorable and the sun is shining, when we receive praise, achieve a success, or experience a moment of pleasure, our boat is lifted high on a wave of elation and excitement. We feel on top of the world. But inevitably, the weather changes. The winds of fortune shift, and a storm of criticism, loss, or pain rolls in. Our small boat then crashes down into a deep trough of despair, fear, or anger. Our inner well-being is completely dependent on the ever-changing weather of external circumstances. We are, in essence, a human yo-yo, constantly being pulled up and down by forces we cannot control. The ancient Buddhist teachings identify these forces with great precision. They are called the 8 worldly winds, and they blow through the life of every single human being, without exception. They come in 4 opposing pairs. The first pair is pleasure and pain, the raw, physical, and emotional sensations of comfort and discomfort that we experience every day. The second is gain and loss, the acquisition and forfeiture of material possessions, wealth, relationships, and opportunities. The third is fame and disrepute, the experience of being known and admired versus being unknown, forgotten, or spoken ill of. And the fourth pair is praise and blame, the direct experience of hearing compliments and accolades versus being subjected to criticism and judgment. Our entire unexamined life is a frantic dance with these 8 winds. We spend all of our energy trying to run toward the favorable winds of pleasure, gain, fame, and praise, while desperately trying to outrun and build walls against the unfavorable winds of pain, loss, disrepute, and blame. This frantic lifelong chase is the very source of our deep exhaustion and our feeling of being perpetually out of control. We are like puppets on a string, and these 8 winds are pulling us in every direction. Equanimity is the practice of cutting these strings. It is crucial, however, to understand what equanimity is not, because it can be mistaken for something cold, distant, or uncaring. It is vital to clear away the misconceptions first. Equanimity is not indifference. Indifference is a form of aversion, a shutting down of the heart. It says, "I don't care what happens. It's all meaningless anyway." This is a state of cynical resignation, not awakened wisdom. Equanimity, by contrast, is a state of profound caring, a love so vast and inclusive that it can hold all experiences without being thrown off balance. Equanimity is also not emotional suppression. It is not about gritting your teeth, puffing out your chest, and pretending that you don't feel pain or sadness. That is simply another form of resistance, a denial of our own human heart. Equanimity does not mean feeling less. It means feeling everything more fully, but with a new quality of wisdom and spaciousness that prevents us from being overwhelmed. Finally, it is not a spaced out, disconnected, or dissociated state. It is a state of vibrant, engaged, and fully present awareness. So what is true equanimity? It is a state of profound mental balance, spaciousness, and non-reactivity. It is like the deep, silent stillness at the center of a raging hurricane. The winds of life may be howling all around. The debris of gain and loss may be flying through the air, but at the very center of our being, there is a core of profound, unshakable peace. This sublime balance is not born from apathy or willpower. It is the natural fruit of deep wisdom. It is the serene state of a mind that has truly and deeply understood the truths of Anicca and Anatta. When you know, in your bones, that pleasure is a fleeting visitor and pain is also a fleeting visitor, you stop desperately clinging to one and violently pushing away the other. When you understand that praise and blame are just impermanent sounds, vibrations in the air that have no power to add or subtract from your true nature, they lose their power to elate or devastate you. And when you see clearly that there is no solid, separate self to be permanently aggrandized by fame or permanently diminished by disrepute, the whole game of worldly success and failure becomes transparent. You can still play the game, but you are no longer a desperate player. You are a wise observer who knows the nature of the game itself. This is why equanimity is considered the pinnacle of the 4 divine abodes, which also include loving kindness, compassion, and sympathetic joy. Equanimity is the vast, stable container that allows the other 3 qualities to become boundless. Without equanimity, our love is partial, our compassion is biased. We feel love for our friends and aversion for our enemies. Equanimity is the even-minded, all-embracing love that sees the shared humanity in all beings and wishes them well without prejudice or preference. The perfect parable for this quality of mind is the image of a great, ancient mountain. Picture it standing majestic and serene, its peak touching the clouds. The mountain has endured for millennia, and it has experienced every kind of weather imaginable. It has been bathed in the gentle, warming sunlight of countless summer days, a perfect metaphor for pleasure and praise. It has been nourished by the soft, life-giving rains of spring, a metaphor for gain and good fortune. But it has also been lashed by the violent, horizontal winds of great storms, a metaphor for blame and harsh criticism. It has been encased in the biting ice and deep snow of a blizzard, a metaphor for pain and loss. It has been shrouded in a thick, disorienting fog that completely obscures it from view, a metaphor for being forgotten or misunderstood. Through all of this, what is the mountain's response? The mountain does not become arrogant when the sun shines upon its slopes. It does not grow depressed when the blizzard rages against its cliffs. It does not try to cling to the pleasant weather or push away the unpleasant weather. It simply stands. It allows all the weather of the world to come and go, to wash over it, to play across its surface. Its fundamental nature is not touched. The storm cannot scar its deep, rocky core. The sunlight cannot alter its essential being. The mountain's great strength lies not in its ability to control the weather, but in its profound, unshakable stability. It simply allows the weather to be weather. Our practice is to cultivate this same mountain-like quality in our own mind, our body, our feelings, and the passing events of our life are like the surface of the mountain, constantly being touched by the changing conditions of the world. But our deep awareness, the quiet, knowing presence that we have cultivated through mindfulness, is like the unshakable heart of the mountain. By learning to rest in this deep, stable awareness, we can allow the 8 worldly winds to blow as they will, without being uprooted or thrown from our center. When we begin to live with this quality of equanimity, our entire experience of life transforms. When a moment of great success or happiness comes, we are able to enjoy it fully, to savor it with gratitude, but without the desperate, anxious clinging that so often accompanies our joy. We can feel the pleasure without immediately creating the secondary suffering of fearing its loss. We can say to ourselves, "This is a beautiful, precious moment. I am so grateful for it, and I understand that it is, like all things, impermanent." This allows for a much purer, lighter, and more profound experience of happiness. And when the inevitable moments of pain, loss, or failure arrive, we are able to meet them with a similar spaciousness. We do not collapse into despair or fight a useless war with reality. We allow the feeling of sadness or grief to be present, meeting it with the warmth of our compassion and the stability of our mountain-like mind. We can say, "This is a moment of pain. This is difficult. May I be patient and kind with myself. As I move through this," we experience the clean pain of the first arrow, but our equanimity prevents us from firing the second, third, and fourth arrows of resistance, despair, and self-pity. This is the ultimate freedom. Our happiness is no longer conditional. Our inner peace is no longer held hostage by the world needing to be a certain way, by people needing to act a certain way, or by our own bodies needing to feel a certain way. We have found a wellspring of peace within ourselves that is not dependent on the weather. We are no longer the frantic boat, tossed on the waves. We are no longer the desperate puppet, pulled by the strings of the world. We are the mountain. Equanimity is the serene and majestic culmination of all our practice. It is the fruit that grows from the strong roots of wisdom and the sturdy trunk of compassion. It is not about feeling less. It is about feeling everything with more wisdom, more balance, and a more courageously open heart. It is the quiet confidence of a mind that has, at long last, come home to its own unshakable nature. This state of profound balance, this mountain-like stability, is the result of weaving together all the threads of the path we have explored. When wisdom, compassion, mindfulness, and letting go all converge. They create a heart that is truly free. Let us now, in our final exploration, look at the integrated picture of this awakened heart. A heart that has been completely and irrevocably liberated from the illusion of control. We began our long journey together on a precarious tightrope, stretched taut over the canyon of our own uncertainty. We were tense. We were bracing. We were clinging to the illusion that with enough effort, we could control the unpredictable winds of life. We were exhausted by this impossible task. We have traveled a great distance since that first step. We have walked a path of deep inquiry, a path of unlearning, a path that has led us not to a new set of rules to follow, but to a new way of being. We have seen how our suffering arises not from life itself, but from the friction of our own resistance. We have uncovered the engine of this resistance, the deep, insatiable thirst of tanha, and we have systematically dismantled the very foundations of control with the profound wisdom of Anicca, impermanence, and Anatta, the selfless nature of our own being. We have learned to use the gentle tools of mindfulness and compassion, not as techniques for more control, but as instruments of wise and loving surrender. We have reframed our actions through the empowering lens of karma, and we have been given a beautiful and holistic map for living, the Noble Eightfold Path. We have brought this practice into our relationships, our work, and even into our relationship with death itself. We have learned to be the sky for our inner weather, to build a refuge within our own hearts, and to stand with the unshakable stability of a mountain amidst the 8 worldly winds. We have arrived now at the culmination of this journey, a vision of the heart that has been truly and profoundly liberated. This is the unshakable heart. What does this unshakable heart look like? It is not a heart that is numb, cold, or unfeeling. It is not the heart of a stone statue. On the contrary, it is a heart that is more alive, more sensitive, and more courageously open than ever before. It is a heart that is no longer afraid of its own feelings. It has the capacity to feel immense joy without desperately clinging to it, and the strength to feel deep sorrow without being drowned by it. The unshakable heart belongs to a mind that is no longer at war with itself. It is not a mind that is empty of thoughts, but a mind that is no longer pushed and pulled by every thought that arises. It sees thoughts for what they are, ephemeral, impersonal events, like clouds passing through the vast sky of awareness. It has found a peace that is not dependent on the absence of problems. This is a crucial redefinition of peace. We often think of peace as a calm, waveless sea, but a sea without waves is a dead sea. The ocean of life is, by its very nature, filled with movement, with currents, with swells, and sometimes with great, crashing waves. True peace is not found in trying to flatten the ocean. True peace is the skill of the master surfer. The surfer does not try to control the waves. That would be absurd. Instead, they have studied the nature of the ocean so deeply and have practiced their own skills so diligently that they can ride any wave that comes. A small, gentle wave is an opportunity for a graceful ride. A huge, powerful, and terrifying wave is an opportunity for a thrilling and courageous one. The liberated heart has learned how to surf the waves of life. It has the freedom from the constant, nagging anxiety of needing to control the future. It is free from the tyranny of the inner critic, that harsh voice of self-judgment. It is free from the deep, existential fear of loss and annihilation. And this freedom from our inner prisons gives rise to a profound freedom too. It is the freedom to love more fully and fearlessly, because our hearts are no longer using others as a source of security. It is the freedom to act with courage and integrity in the world, because our self-worth is no longer on the line. It is the freedom to be spontaneous, creative, and playful, because we are no longer bound by the rigid script of our own expectations. This is the deepest meaning behind the promise of our journey to sleep well in the flow of life. It is not just about getting 8 hours of uninterrupted slumber. It is a metaphor for an entire way of being. It is the ability to live with a mind that is at rest even when it is active, a heart that is at peace even in the midst of turmoil. It is to live in a state of such profound trust with the unfolding of reality that we no longer feel the need to fight it. We are finally able to rest in life itself. How is such a profound transformation possible? It does not come from logically figuring everything out. There is a famous koan, or teaching puzzle, from the Zen tradition that points to this. A master asks the student, "We all know the sound of 2 hands clapping, but tell me, what is the sound of 1 hand?" The student's rational mind immediately goes to work, trying to solve the riddle. Is the answer silence? Is it the sound of the wind? Is it a philosophical concept? The student may bring many clever, logical answers to the master, but each one is rejected. This is because the koan is not a riddle to be solved by the intellect. It is a tool designed to exhaust the intellect, to show it its own limits. The thinking mind, the part of us that wants to analyze, categorize, and control, is the very faculty being challenged. The answer to the koan is not an idea at all. It is a direct, intuitive, and instantaneous shift in consciousness. It is a moment of awakening where the dualistic framework of the question itself, the framework of 2 versus 1, collapses. In that collapse, a new, non-dual perception of reality is born. Our entire journey of letting go of control is like a deep engagement with this koan. We began by trying to solve the problem of life with our controlling, thinking mind. We tried to force reality to clap in the way we wanted. We tried to make sense of the chaos, to impose our will upon the world, to find the right answer. This entire path has been a process of showing us the futility of that approach. The ultimate liberation is not a better answer arrived at by the thinking mind. It is a fundamental shift in perception. It is the direct seeing that the problem we were trying to solve, the problem of a separate, frightened me, at war with a separate, threatening world, was an illusion from the very beginning. The sound of 1 hand is the profound peace that is revealed when the 2 hands of me and the world cease their violent clapping, when they stop their struggle and are realized to be 2 aspects of 1 single, seamless, and miraculous reality. The unshakable heart, then, is not a final destination, not a trophy of enlightenment to be placed on a shelf. It is the lived expression of this new perception. It is a continuous practice, a moment-to-moment way of being in the world. There will still be times when we forget. The old habits of fear and control have deep roots, and they may sprout up from time to time. The practice is not about never stumbling. It is about learning to get back up with more grace, more compassion, and more wisdom each time. It is the gentle, repeated, and loving act of returning to the breath, returning to the present moment, returning to the wisdom that has been uncovered in our own heart. And perhaps the most beautiful realization of all is that this liberation is not something we need to acquire from the outside. It is not in a distant land or a future time. It has been here all along. It is the very nature of our own awareness, hidden just beneath the turbulent surface of our clinging, our resistance, and our fear. The entire journey has not been about going somewhere else, but about finally, truly, and completely arriving right where we already are. Our journey together began on a tightrope, a place of tension, fear, and meticulous control. We were living as prisoners inside a fortress of our own making, believing that the high walls of our plans and our defenses could somehow keep us safe from the unpredictable weather of life. We have walked a long and winding path since that first step, a path of deep inquiry that has led us not to a new set of answers, but to a profound dissolution of the questions themselves. We saw that our suffering came not from life, but from our resistance to it. We learned to be the sky, not the storm, to be the mountain, not the wind. We took apart the very idea of a separate, controlling self, and in the space where that anxious manager once stood, we found a vast, open, and peaceful awareness. We have, in essence, walked out of our own prison and into the open field of reality. And so we arrive at the central liberating truth of this entire exploration. The deep, abiding peace that our hearts have been searching for is not, and has never been, contingent upon the successful manipulation of the world outside of us. It will not be found in a perfect career, a flawless relationship, a life free from sickness, or a future that unfolds according to our every desire. Peace is not a destination we arrive at after all our problems have been solved. It is a quality of being that we can access in this very moment, right in the midst of our imperfect lives. It is the realization that true control is not the power to bend the world to our will, for that is the path of endless struggle. True control, the only freedom we ever truly possess, is the power to choose how we meet the world. It is the freedom to master our own mind's reaction to the waves of life, to meet them not with fear and resistance, but with the open, compassionate, and wise heart we have so patiently cultivated. The path does not end here. It begins again, in this very next moment, with this very next breath. The journey is not about achieving a final state of perfection, but about the continuous, gentle practice of returning to presence, returning to kindness, returning to the simple truth of what is. Tonight, as you lay your head down to rest, let this be your only practice. Do not try to solve the problems of tomorrow. Do not try to force yourself to sleep. Simply feel the weight of your body and notice how it is being held, how it is being completely supported by the bed beneath you. Notice your breath, how it flows in and flows out, a natural, simple rhythm, happening all by itself, without any help from you. Let go into that support. Trust in that quiet, effortless flow. That is the beginning of wisdom. That is the beginning of peace. And that is how you learn to sleep well, in the gentle, ever-present current of life.